Hey guys, welcome back to another Weird Wednesday. I'm Asherz, and this is
Tobias.
Tobias. How are ya?
Good. How are you?
Doing fantastic. Life. It's tough sometimes, but other times it's fucking great. Um, what have you been up to? Anything exciting?
Oh boy. Good question. And I get asked it every time. And in the tradition of being asked every time, I have to think about it because
Ugh.
I always immediately forget. I'm like a goldfish. I swim to the other end of my tank and I forget everything I saw on the aside I was just in, right? So
I know. I don't. I think it's easier when I ask, "How's your weekend?" Because then you have to, in your brain, like go over what did I do this weekend.
right, right. No, I mean
Um,
I do my normal nerd stuff, or I have done my normal nerd stuff. This last Saturday, I ran some Star Wars Edge of the Empire tabletop role playing game for our local gaming club, Madison Tabletop Role Playing. So if you're in the Madison, Wisconsin area and you love tabletop role playing games, you've got to look up Madison Tabletop Role Playing. And so every third Saturday we will run like an all day session at Hawthorne Library, which is on the east side. And it was my turn because we have like a pool of game masters to run these games. And so it was my turn. And I chose to run Star Wars because it's an IP that Emily likes and that I also like. But most importantly, it's one that she likes. And I thought she would like the system for this game, and so I ran it, and she did like it, which means that it's another thing that I can run for us. Like there's two types of games in this world. There are games that Emily likes and will play, and games that Emily does not like and will not play.
okay.
And yeah, and that first list is critically important to me as her husband,
Sure.
because like I want games that we can play together, because that means I get to play way more games. So she loved it, which I thought she would, but like that was confirmed. So that was super cool. Otherwise, I'm trying to think. I haven't watched any interesting documentaries lately. There's one or two that I have my eye on, but I've been keeping busy doing research for the new book. Reading a lot of like old like Charles Fort. And I got to tell you, I recommend Fort to people a lot. I do, because I think that in order to have a good understanding, like a solid base of knowledge in this field, not just on anomalous phenomena, but on the inspiration for a lot of authors
Yeah.
that are widely celebrated today in this field, you got to know Fort. You have
Yeah.
to. You can't understand John Keel without understanding Charles Fort. I'm sorry, you just can't. And so I recommend Fort all the time to people. And it's been a while since I've gone back and actually read his collected works. Um, so I've been doing that as part of my research for this next project. And it's a lot. How do I put this? It's a lot less readable than I than I remember.
Okay. All
I
right.
mean, it's fine. Like you should be able to get through it, but yeah, it's very dense, and his writing style. He clearly is not a trained writer. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like he has a lot of very interesting ideas, and the information that he finds, like through basically sitting in a library all day and going through their archives and stuff, is fascinating. But yeah, his writing can be a little difficult to read, and I don't remember it being that when I read it. Well, I've read it a couple times, but not within the past several years. And I wonder if it's because of this time I am having to do a more critical reading of it.
Hmm.
Like before I could just kind of sit back and like let it wash over me and be like, okay, whatever. Like it's very sort of passive reading. But now, I have to look at it completely differently. And in trying to like critically examine it and evaluate it and really understand it on a deeper level than I think I was necessarily going for before, because you have to when you're using it for research, right? I was like, wow, people are going to bounce right off this. And sure enough, like I've talked to people since who have been like, yeah, like you recommended for it, and I went and tried to read it, and then my eye started bleeding, and I passed out for like a week. I was like, oh shit, I'm sorry. Well, try again. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, I haven't read Charles Fort, well, probably since I started back in 2019. So, um, but I guess it would be interesting to revisit because I know that I revisited Keel kind of recently, not so much. So I was reading it. I was reading Mothman Prophecies over on my Patreon for people, and was
Hmm.
kind of doing like a mystery science theater reading of it, right? So like I would read and then react. And it's interesting to go back and revisit some of these times because my perspective is different now, like than it was like when I first read this stuff. Well, I was first reading about it, right? I was just now learning about all of it, and so I don't know. I might go back and revisit some Charles Fort because you're absolutely right. I mean, you kind of it's at minimum paying homage to like the OG, right, of the weird. It's kind of unfair how not I'm not gonna say underrated so much, but um how much Fort is not discussed in this community, especially for the woo people, They don't.
Oh, sure. He's the H.P. Lovecraft of
Yes.
anomalous phenomena.
That's a great way to put it.
He is. He's the easily the most influential writer that most people in the mainstream have never heard of. But everybody who is actively working in this field knows exactly who he is.
Right. Yep. Yeah. And but they haven't necessarily read his stuff.
Right.
I talk a lot about, well, I mean, we all talk a lot about Ivan Sanderson and Bernard Hoovelmans. I've never read not any of their books.
Well, yeah.
Never have.
I'm trying to think. I don't know if I have, but I've also never been as interested in those subjects.
Right. Sure.
Like I've just never been a big undiscovered primate species Bigfoot guy.
Sure.
So like, I mean, it's
That's fair.
you might as well just hand me like a science textbook and be like, here, read this. And I'd be like, well, you know what? I'm going to go do literally anything else, like anything else at all other than sit here and read this fucking textbook.
Yeah. I mean, I've read like select writings of theirs, nitpick, cherry pick things here and there, certain topics like on the Minnesota Iceman, right?
Hmm.
Sanderson did a lot of research into the Flatwoods Monster.
I've read articles. Yeah, sure.
Right. But I've never like sat down and read one of their books. And it's just, and I was a cryptozoology person. Like that's how I mean, that's where I got my start into this. I didn't fuck with aliens or ghosts or any of that. I was into undiscovered animals, and still have never read any of their books. But I wasn't into like dignified researchers until I became one. And then I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess, in order to perfect my own craft, you have to study the craft before you.
Sure.
So, but anyway, it definitely is overlooked. So okay, I won't say anything. I won't get into it. But anyway, people pay attention to the stuff that Tobias just said, what he's researching on. If you want to get kind of an idea of what he's working on, that's all I got to say about it.
Oh yeah, like I've posted pictures. I think I posted a picture the other day that had some like a stack of books that I was using to research this thing I'm working on, and I think it was the collected works of Charles Fort, Operation Trojan Horse, The Eighth Tower, The Mothman Prophecies, Secret Cipher of the UFO
Wow.
Secret Rituals of the Men in Black,
Ooh.
and the Book of the Law. I'm pretty sure, which is a
We had
pretty eclectic mix. That's Aleister Crowley. Yeah.
yeah, we had
Um,
Greenfield on the show. Man, that guy.
oh yeah. Greenfield did the UFO and
Yeah.
yeah MIB ones. Yeah.
Yeah, he's interesting.
He's a character. Yeah, he is.
He's
He
a
is
character.
a
Yeah.
character. I don't know him super well. I've interacted with him a little bit on on social media, but not a whole ton. I certainly have friends of mine who know him much better than I do. Maybe I'll interview him for this book. Who knows? I think that would probably be pretty interesting if you'd be open to that. But yeah, no, it is interesting. It is kind of like well, there are just certain authors like that, like Fort, where you learn a lot about them, especially through secondhand sources and reading quotes
Yeah.
and articles about them and stuff, and then you go back and read their actual work, and you're like, holy shit, like this is why probably um, he's not better known, is because it's not the easiest read out there. It's not the most
It's not, yeah.
difficult read. So before anybody hops on and puts on their fucking genius hat and goes, well, pushes their glasses up and goes, well, actually, I found Fort to be delightful and a very easy, casual read. Yeah, fine. Fuck you too. Like, I'm not an idiot. Like, I read it and it's fine, but I get why it's not more widely read, because it's
Mhm.
not the easiest fucking read in the world. It's not like reading John Keel, which is basically just having a conversation with your favorite uncle after he's
Yeah.
like 6 beers into the night.
Yep.
Like that's super easy. That like those
Mhm.
books are actively fun reads, and yeah, that's not what Fort's writing is. It's Fort's writing is trying to keep up with your favorite genius professor that whose level you hope to be on someday, but probably will never ever like actually attain in your lifetime, and just kind of nodding your head and being like, oh yeah, no, I totally agree. I get it. I don't get it, you know?
Yeah, go back over and just read it a couple more times. And still, some of it, like with Fort, I remember when I was reading Book of the Damned, I was going through it, and I'm like as I'm reading it, and being somebody who was like in the shit of synchronicity at the time, and just so much high strangeness going on in my own life, I was like, it was, I don't know, it was like unlocking something. You just kind of got it, and
Yeah.
I get what you mean. If you're not really, it's like when they say like you shouldn't trip, like, unless you're in a certain mindset, right?
Yeah.
You're just not gonna get it. That you shouldn't read Charles Fort unless you're in a certain mindset.
I no, I mean, I think you're onto something there, because I through multiple readings of his work, I think that I have intuitively come to like the to an understanding of what he was
Right.
actually getting at,
Yep.
that isn't immediately apparent through like a surface reading. I think it takes multiple readings. I think there is a level of intuitive genius at work where your subconscious mind makes these connections, and you literally will have this like moment of enlightenment. Like there's
Yeah.
this eureka moment where you're like, oh shit, I get it. I understand what he's
Right.
saying now.
Yeah.
I get the point of this.
And you
Um,
get it or you don't. I mean, there's no
right.
you can't really train yourself to get it. So, I
So,
understand. Have you finished it yet? Have you gotten that far yet?
oh yeah, I'm pretty much done with. Well, I don't know that I won't circle back on it, but yeah,
Sure.
I'm on to other avenues of research at this point. But yeah, it was great revisiting all of the like the Charles Fort stuff, because it had been a while, like I said, since I sat down and reread it. And it's not written in fucking Greek. It's plain English. Anybody can
Right.
pick these books up. It's just, don't expect to be entertained in the way that you'll be entertained if you're reading somebody like John Keel,
Yeah.
because that's not the kind of writer Ford is. Like he has a very dry wit, a very dry sense of
Mhm.
humor,
Yep.
that is difficult to detect at times if you don't know what to actually look for or aren't familiar with it. And so his overall writing, yeah, it can be kind of dry, kind of academic, um, you know, difficult, dense, but it's definitely worth it. If you can power through, nothing in life worth having is easy, right? So
Absolutely. Do you write in your books when you read them?
no, I don't. I usually have a journal nearby, and if I feel like I want to take notes or something, like I'll jot down page numbers and take notes that way. Now, of course, I always have my laptop. So I can usually just I'll usually just use that for notation and stuff. What's really neat now is a lot of these books too. Like you can find through like archive.org, you can get all of Charles Fort's books, like all of them,
Yep.
and you can get them for free, and you can
Mhm.
download them and have PDFs of them. Which, from a research standpoint, is nice because then I can look for keywords, and
Yep,
like and
absolutely.
yeah, and just really quickly find information that I'm looking for. And then if you want, you can always like put notes in a PDF and things too, if you feel like
Copy and
doing
paste it
that.
right into a document,
Sure.
for your references. I write in my books. I'm a bad
Yeah.
person,
That's
and
fine. That's your choice.
they're mine, right? I'm allowed.
Yeah, do whatever you want.
Um, but I do it because, like, obviously one day I'm gonna be like really famous, and then I'm gonna die, and then people are gonna be like, "These are her books that she wrote in when she was researching." You know what
Well,
I mean?
those
They're
are gonna
gonna
be
be
worth
like,
a lot of
so much
money.
money, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm doing my child a favor. It's
Nice.
I just started doing it. I would I would just highlight certain pages, and I was never a book writer before. I always thought it was gross. But I would like use my highlighter, right, and just highlight certain things I could reference back to it pretty quickly. Flip to the book, find the highlighted section, there it is. But now it's become habit to do it that way, and I'll like write different things in there, like to cross reference other books. It's fucking weird. But sometimes you come across things that
Oh
two
yeah.
different people have written about. So anyway, I was just curious.
No, I don't. There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, like there certainly have been times where like I'll have read something and I'll make a connection and I'll look it up in another book, like what you're talking about, and then um, I'll read the thing again, like several years later, and make the same connection. And be like, oh shit, what book did I see that in? And if I would have written it in the book the first time, I would know immediately. But
Right.
instead, then I have to go, through the same chase that I did before to like track it down. I guess part of it for me is one, like I'm a collector at heart, like I
Yeah.
collect books, I collect, and I try to keep them nice. And then the other thing too is like my fear is corrupting the book. Like I don't want to alter it in a way that would change the experience of reading it a second time.
Hmm.
So like if I wrote something that later I was like, oh well, this is completely fucking stupid. Every time I go back and read that book, it's gonna corrupt the narrative of that author with the ideas that I've inserted in there. And so I want to avoid that as much as possible.
Interesting. I like that. I like revisiting my old ideas and my old theories and seeing just how fucking wrong I was.
That's what journals are for, though. Like that's why I
That's
keep a
true.
journal and write in it like about what I'm reading and stuff.
Or podcasts at least, right?
Oh yeah,
I've been posting the whole show over on the Patreon ad free, and I've started with episode 1, right? And then so I've started with episode 1, and then whatever the newest episode is, right? The patrons get it earlier and they get it ad free. And just kind of I don't listen to every single one of the episodes, but I do get curious. I'll kind of skim through an episode and I'm like, Jesus, that's embarrassing. And you can go listen to those episodes right now, audience. They're available to you with ads, of course, on what you're listening to this now on. And if you want it ad free, it's over on the Patreon. So join that. But yeah, it can be really embarrassing, but I think it's important. I think it's important for us to show that we're flawed and that things
sure.
change. But anyway, so a podcast is essentially a diary of what you've been through lately. So
Yeah,
you
it's
know,
like an audio journal. Sure, I can't stand to hear or see myself, and so I won't go listen to things I've been on. I don't
yeah.
watch myself on TV or in documentaries or anything. No thanks.
I feel that. Yeah. I got to be like way separated from it. Like I don't listen to the show every week. I was here. You know?
Yeah,
But
right.
if it's 2 or 3, 4 years down the line, I'll come back and revisit it.
Sure.
So I mean, there's that. Anyway, I did some revisiting of my own this weekend. I watched Shin Godzilla again. And man, let me tell you, that movie is so fucking fantastic. If you guys have not watched Shin Godzilla for whatever reason, and I've probably toted it now. I've probably boasted about the show probably 10 times, or this movie on this show. I don't know, Tobias, you're not a big kaiju fan, are you?
I love giant monsters. I don't watch a lot of like Japanese cinema though.
Oh man, you got to watch Shin Godzilla. I'm telling
Okay,
you,
I'll check it out.
even if you're not a Godzilla fan, that's the thing about it's so different from the other movies. It treats it like approaches Godzilla from a bureaucratic perspective. So it's like, what? There's this huge monster now. What are we going to do about it? It takes place in two places: the city and a meeting room. The whole movie.
Okay,
Um, which might bug some people, but it's just it's fun because there's some, like, we know that like Godzilla is a mutated animal due to radiation most of the time. Now, don't quote me on that for every Godzilla, but most of the
sure.
Godzilla movies, that's what it is. And in this instance, they kind of like handle that a little bit, like, kind of the more scientific aspect of it, because it is like pissed off. It is clearly in pain and suffering, and it's the U.S. government's fault. So it's great.
Okay, fair
Um,
enough.
but yeah, check that out. I don't know. I did that. And I did that after I had already wasted about 45 minutes on what I thought was a documentary. And it wasn't a documentary, it was a
Oh
fucking
no.
mockumentary. And I just hate that. It makes me so fucking mad. It's a, I'm not even going to name it, but it's about UFO abduction, allegedly. Right. And I'm like, oh, I've never heard of this before. That sounds super interesting. And the big kicker, like the big, like, smoking gun of evidence for this abduction is like this 911 phone call, which actually kind of plays into today's episode. But I'm like, how have I never heard of this before? Right. And I start watching it.
Mhm.
And at first I'm like hooked. I'm like, okay, this is really interesting. And then like they actually it's like a documentary film crew is interviewing this abductee, right? They're trying to get information from him, and then like weird shit starts happening to them. And I'm like, okay, that's kind of neat.
I think I know what you're talking about, and
Yeah.
like I didn't watch it because
Yeah.
it was a mockumentary. Like I figured it out by reading the synopsis and then like looking at it, just just checking it out, and I was like, this is not real. So I didn't even bother with it.
Well, and that's the thing that pissed me off. The platform that I was watching it on had it marked as a documentary. I guess
Yes,
because mockumentary isn't a category.
it should be, but it's not. Yeah,
Right.
unfortunately.
So, like I said, I get like 40 minutes into this and like shit starts happening and like it's clearly like fake. Like at that point, I'm like, oh. And I Googled it real quick because I like to go into documentaries with complete surprise.
Sure.
If nobody's ever watched it, a good one to watch if you're into the true crime thing is, or just period, you should just watch it. It's called Dear Zachary, and it will blow your fucking mind. It's such an emotional roller coaster. Watch it. Don't Google anything about it. Just watch it, right? And I kind of learned my lesson, right? Don't Google anything. Just watch it. So that's what I did. So after 40 minutes of wasted time, I was really pissed off, and I decided to instead pull up a comfort movie, and it was Shin Godzilla. So
Nice. That reminds me of when the fourth kind came out, and the number of people who would then use information from that movie as evidence for like their stupid opinions. And the number
yeah,
of people who thought that like it was a real documentary because it was very much Blair Witch in its style of narrative and immersion, trying to pretend like it was real, which I think is fine, like it works a lot of the time. I like that movie more or less. I went
me
into it, of
too.
course, knowing that it was not real.
Hmm.
But I still thought it was cool. But yeah, boy, it's a popular thing to do, and there are a lot of those now. I've seen some for paranormal stuff, and the best thing about like the paranormal ones, if you ever see one of these like fake paranormal documentary horror things, right?
Oh yeah.
Like the best thing about them is how little difference there is between them and what is purportedly real documentaries about the fucking paranormal, which should make you think like, huh, like that's so weird that it's so similar to this stuff that's touted as being real on TV, and yet I know it's fake. I wonder what that says about the shit on TV.
Right. Yep. Pretty much. Well, it just, I like found footage. That's the thing
Hmm.
about it. I'm not going to say it's like my favorite genre or anything. It's just there's plenty
Sure.
of found footage films that I like. I
Because
don't
there's so many
know.
of them.
There are. I was a big Blair Witch Project fan,
Sure.
I still like it. Some people hate that movie. I enjoy it.
Yeah, it's a good movie.
Um, because I enjoyed the mystery as a kid. I was a kid when it came out, and
I was
you
a
know,
teenager. Yeah, I
as
get
a
it.
child, it was real. They made the whole documentary about it. It was real, right?
Oh
Um,
yeah.
so what's the difference between a documentary and a found footage film? So I guess that's not really fair, but for whatever reason, I hate mockumentaries, but love found footage. I don't know why in my brain I can't separate the two and just enjoy it for the experience. Um, I don't know. It's whatever,
Well,
I guess.
yeah, no, I get it. I think the distinction is that a found footage film isn't trying to present itself as a source of like factual information. Um, and like obviously a mockumentary by design is not meant to be believed or used as a source for something, right? Because it's not real. But the way that it's presented um, makes it easy to be misinterpreted by people. And because we're in a field where the water is already so fucking muddy,
Yeah.
for them to make it even murkier by
Yeah.
adding stuff like that it's frustrating. Like I think it hits people like us on a different level where we're like, you should throw your hands up. It's like, there's already enough fucking bullshit here, right? Like, do we need to have any more? Is this necessary? Do we need more bullshit? I don't think we do.
Yeah. I agree with that. That's probably it. I'm just too close to the topics at hand. And so I see that shit happening every day, and I don't like to be fooled. I think that's another part of it. I think what really ruined it for me was when Animal Planet did the mermaids thing.
Yeah.
And it was done so well. It really was.
Oh yeah.
And still to this day, you hear about it. Still. And none of it was real. None of it. And I think I was like at the peak of my interest in these topics. I mean, I was a teenager when that came out. I wanted to be a cryptozoologist. I was very excited that this was being taken seriously. Um, and it just was a fucking joke. I was upset.
Right.
So it hurt my damn feelings. That's the end of it. And now I'm like, you're not going to trick me again. Well, motherfucker, guess what? Again, I got tricked at 32 years old, got fucking, I fell for it again. It pissed me off.
Just when you thought like it was over, you're like, I'm ready to be hurt again, and here we go. Yeah, just
Fucking fell
immediately.
for it. So it fell right into the arms of the fake abduction documentary. So instead I watched, Shin Godzilla. And that made me feel significantly better.
Good. Not a mockumentary, I might add. So
Not a mockumentary, but more real than that was, to be honest with you.
yeah. Well,
um,
that's fair. I mean, I have an easier time believing in Godzilla than I do some people's like alien abduction narratives. So
just depends. Yeah, just depends. Anyway, so that's what I've been up to lately. Let me go ahead and pull up my news. You want to talk about some news?
oh, do I? I wonder if any of your news is the same as my news. Let's find out.
It might be. Let's see here. I got some good pieces of news here. First of all, speaking of Japan and toxic animals, this is a fun story. Japan has issued a warning against a particular toxic cat in the area. Okay. This happened in, I think it's Fukuyama in Japan. A metal plating factory employees had signed in for the day and had found rust colored paw prints on the ground that were leading away from a giant vat of some chemical. I think it's hexavalent chromium. Anyway, it's super fucking toxic.
Okay.
They had thought that this stray cat that had wandered and had fallen into this vat and then somehow climbed out and walked away. They actually had the cat on security camera walking away, so They think that's what happened, and they are warning citizens to stay away from the cat. Even touching it will give you cancer, I guess. I mean, all kinds of all kinds of issues. There's a saddening to it. The cat probably is not still alive, but in the off chance that it is, and you are in Japan, you should probably stay away from stray cats. So,
I wonder if that is going to become an urban legend at some point. You know what I mean?
or at least a new kaiju, right? Catzilla.
Yeah. Right. I do feel bad for the cat,
I do
like
too. Yeah.
that fucking sucks. But like if there will be this urban legend, kind of like the oh god, the girl who gets the prom dress from the mortuary and it's soaked in the embalming fluid that gets in through her skin through the sweat, so she dies, like that kind of thing, where it's like, oh boy, you got to watch out, don't pet the wrong stray cat or you're going to get super toxic poisoning.
Oh man, it could. That could be bad for the area of stray cats in Japan. I think they're a lot nicer to their stray cats than we are.
Okay.
I don't know though for sure. I'm making an the Japanese seem to love cats,
That's fair.
you
Okay. I
know.
mean, I hope so. Everybody
So
should.
everybody should, right? But like, I know like, locally in my area, you got the neighbors that hate stray cats,
Oh, people poison cats and shit. It's fucking
Right.
horrible. Yeah.
It's horrible. I'm just making assumptions based off of the Japanese media that I've seen that they really like cats. So
Okay.
I hope it's that way. Maybe that's a stereotype and I shouldn't do that, but for my own peace of mind, I would like to assume that they treat their strays better. They are trying to find the cat. They are actively looking for the cat.
That makes sense because probably I don't know what the half life of whatever this thing is that's on it, but like,
Right.
like the body of the cat could be dangerous for some time. I would imagine.
Well, right. What happens if it dies and then a local vulture decides to have a meal? Does it then spread the vulture and then it just kind of goes out of hand and now we have zombies? What
Maybe. I mean, probably.
what's going to happen here? Now with this stray cat, I don't know. I just know that for now they have issued a warning for people to stay away from any stray cats they may encounter in the area, because just even touching this one toxic cat can ruin your day. Pretty
Okay.
badly. That's my first news.
Well, you heard it here first. Be mean to stray cats.
Don't be mean. Just
Oh
ignore
God.
them.
Right. No, obviously I'm kidding. Come on.
My mom she's been feeding cats outside, and
Really.
she's got this one who, has finally opened up to her and she's petting it and stuff, and it's been great. Except she said one day she's out there petting it and it kind of went after her hand, and cats do that. You'll be petting it and
Yeah.
it's fine, and then they're not. But then it didn't just go after her hand; it fucking latched onto her whole leg and was like trying to kill her. And we don't know why, but
Okay.
that's
Well,
cats.
you gotta, I mean, go get your shots for rabies, I guess.
That's what I said. I was like, "It's a cat. Are we sure it doesn't have rabies?" No, it doesn't. It's just a mean cat, and sometimes cats are, they get that way, but it still
Yeah.
wants you to pet it. Yeah.
It's like that fucking cat's just like, listen up. I'm gonna tear the shit out of you, and you better fucking pet me the whole time.
You're
The
just gonna
whole
wait.
time.
Yeah. But that's cats sometimes, it's normal behavior for them.
That's true. That is
Uh,
fair.
anyway, my next bit of news. It's been a minute since I've talked about Ohio and what's going on here. So we've had the cow. Okay.
We did R.I.P. cow.
R.I.P. to the cow, Murambe. We had the finger. Tobias, you weren't here for the finger, were you?
I don't think I was, but
Oh gosh,
sounds
they
sounds
found a
spicy.
finger. Yeah, they found a finger in a Walmart parking lot locally. Nobody knows whose it is. We still
Oh
haven't figured it
no.
out yet.
Oh shit. All right. Okay, so everybody hold up your hands. Who's missing a finger?
We're trying to figure it out. Yeah, it's just not working. But now we got another story here, and I know Nate loves the Ohio tales, so here we go. So two women by the name of I'm gonna name drop them. Karen, I think it's Cassbaum, and Lorene B. Ferrallo are in big trouble. Their friend Douglas Lehman passed away, and they decided that, well, the best course of action is to weekend at Bernie's him. They
I heard
loaded
about
his
this.
they
Yeah.
loaded his body up into the car, took him to his bank, and used his body to withdraw cash from his bank accounts.
Right. What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah. They then dumped him at the local hospital without answering any questions about who he was, who they were, anything like that. They just said, and I want to know how this went. Did they just push the body out the door on the sidewalk? Did they actually go in and say, hey, you got to get this guy? I don't know. Either way, they're now facing charges of abuse of a corpse and possibly potential charges for the stolen money. What the fuck, man?
Right.
what, what is going on? You know, first of all, okay. So they use the drive up ATM, okay, with his body in the front seat, not in the driver's seat, I'm assuming. Or maybe it was. I don't know. They used a brick to, or maybe like little poles to push the pedals. I don't know
Yeah,
how
it's
they
all
did it.
like strings and levers and stuff. You've seen Weekend at Bernie's.
It's very right. It's very creative. Um, anyway, they drive up. I believe he was in the passenger seat, and they kind of propped his body, so he was kind of like leaning over to the driver to like talk to them. And they withdraw money from the ATM. I'm guessing. I didn't know that you had to be present to withdraw money. Like, how does the fucking bank teller know that you're not Douglas?
If it's my bank, you have to show them your driver's license.
Even at the ATM?
Not at the ATM. So they must have had to go through the actual drive-through where you talk to a teller. Because at the ATM, you just need the card
And the pen.
and their pin. But if you don't, okay, so this is what I'm picturing.
Okay.
Because I actually I remember reading about this and thinking about how fucking nuts it was. Um, okay, so if they don't have his pin, which a lot of people don't keep it written down, like where would you find it even, you know? But you still want to take the money out. The only other option is to actually go through the drive-through where you talk to the teller. Now you don't need a pin for that, but you do need a driver's license, and the account owner has to be present. So you you bundle this corpse up, you put it in the car. Obviously, you've got his driver's license, right? And so you can drive through, show them the driver's license, be like, "Yep," and that should be enough. Which is, I'm guessing, why they had to do that, because they couldn't actually get anything out of the ATM.
Hmm. Maybe that makes sense. Yeah, because I mean, you wouldn't for the AT. Like, I don't need to show anything when I drive up to the ATM except
No,
for
you
my
just need your
pen.
personal identification number.
So, so the teller's like talking to the lady, and she's like, "Hold on, I'll ask him." And like looks over at him, and his mouth doesn't move, and she's like, "He said this." you know,
Right?
how does that work? I don't. It doesn't matter. It's so stupid. They got caught,
Of
obviously,
course.
and I mean, it's just real shitty. That's just a real fucking shitty thing to do. Like,
Oh
that's not,
yeah.
you're not good. You're not a good friend. Like, if I die, I mean, okay, I have a child, so really anything that I have goes to her. And honestly, if I died and my friends needed money, like, take my fucking money. I don't care about that. But like, don't fucking weekend at Bernie's. Well, actually, the more I talk about this, the more it kind of sounds pretty neat. So,
Right, because you're not, it's not like you're dead,
right, I
like
don't
you're not going
care.
to be in your body no matter what you believe, whether or not you believe in an afterlife is immaterial, because no matter what you believe, once you're dead, your body is no longer any of your business. Like who gives a shit?
How do these two people? I just I have so many fucking questions. These two people, their friend dies, I guess, in front of them. I don't. Do they all live together? They walk in his room. He's
I
dead.
thought they
They
were roommates or something. I don't have the actual story in front of
right.
me.
They go to his house. They find him. He's dead, and they're like, "Oh my god, our friend. That's terrible. We don't know what he died from. Nobody's said yet. I don't know if they will. But they're like, oh, it's terrible. He's dead." And then they look at each other and they're like, "Well, want to go take his money?" How do you come to that conclusion?
Drugs.
That's a good
That's how
point.
you come to that conclusion. I don't remember it being stated explicitly, but there is only one reason people do shit like this, and it is always fucking drugs,
Fair enough. That's a
you
good point.
know? So,
That was a good point. And then, yeah, like I said, when they dropped him off at the hospital, they were just push him out the door. Like, here you go. Well, I mean, actually, that kind of happened to my dad when he got shot, and not when he died, but when he got shot. So my dad was an accessory to murder. He murdered someone. It's a terrible story. I'm gonna tell it one day on my Patreon. You guys can listen to it. It's kind of interesting. But he got shot in the process, and he proceeded to drive himself to the hospital and passed out like at the entrance of the hospital, like passed out in the front of the hospital. They picked him up and carried him away, but that shit kind of just happens, right? People just show up at the entrances of hospitals all the time.
Sure.
It's I guess that's not unusual. Anyway, Ohio's fucking weird, man. These people, they need to get it together. You know,
Ohio, Florida of the Midwest.
it is. It is. Except we don't have one man that does it all. We just everybody fucking does it, you know?
Right. It's just, yeah, it's a collective effort. It's a real team effort over there in Ohio.
It's gotta be. Look at the shit they're doing, you know? It's it's something. Um okay, so not so much silly news, but potentially I got something else here. This is a throwback to 2020.
Oh, wow.
So a mysterious monolith has popped up in Wales.
Oh,
Remember
yeah.
that?
We're back doing this again.
Back doing this again. It was discovered by a jogger. He says that it was about 10 feet tall. It was hollow and clearly made of sheet metal. Now, the difference in this monolith is that the other ones were more of a, rectangular type thing. This one is more like triangular.
Okay.
So what's going on? Who did it? Who done it? Is the person going to come forward? Are they making a statement? Why are we bringing back the monoliths again? My answer is why not? It was fun.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, if that's how you want to spend your free time, who am I to say?
Yeah, I mean, they're clearly man-made, right? When the first one popped up, then we had a bunch of copycats that just kept popping up, and everybody's like, "Oh, it's aliens or whatever." Aliens are much more creative than that, right? That's why they do crop circles.
Right. Yeah. The idea that like extraterrestrials were coming down trying to send some arcane fucking message through the use of like shitty sheet metal fucking monoliths.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
come on, fucking just get off it, people. It's clear they're clearly art installations. They're not all that inspired. You can whip one up in your garage in like 20 minutes. Come on,
yeah,
it's not that big a deal.
yeah. We were gonna do it actually. Me and my group of friends, we were thinking about doing a monolith, but we
They're
didn't.
not hard. Yeah,
No,
anybody could.
no, just cause. I mean, it was like I said, it's a fun thing to do at the time. So is this going to kick off a new round of monoliths being spotted all over the world? Probably. Yeah, why not? Sure, because it is so fucking easy to construct and put somewhere. Why not get your friends together, go make yourself a monolith, and go put it somewhere. But come back and clean that shit up. That's
Yeah,
litter,
don't litter your fucking monoliths everywhere.
right? I
Nobody
mean,
needs
just
that shit.
come set it up right for about a week. Let someone discover it and then take that shit down.
Yeah,
You don't even have to be like, well, it's my monolith. Just be like, oh, well, I thought it was fucking litter, so I'm throwing it away. Nobody even has to know it was you. That's my advice. But that's
correct.
my news.
That's some solid news. I have some UFO news if you want to hear
Oh,
about UFO news.
let's hear about it.
Sure. So this first one is out of Norway, and I've only found one source for this, and it's like a Belgian news website. So so like the original story is in French, um, but apparently Norwegian UFO investigators are searching a frozen lake for a mysterious object said to have crashed there 77 years ago. The UFO reportedly crashed in 1947 in a lake near the town of Røros. I hope I pronounced that correctly. If I didn't, sorry, Norwegians, in Norway, and was witnessed by the town's mayor who lived close to the crash site. So this looks to be put together by, let's see, there's a photographer named, and again, Norwegians, I'm so sorry, I don't speak your language. Named Rue Rostad that's what I'm going with.
Sure.
Who's helping to organize this effort, and so the way he described this purported object, at least from the original story, is that it was supposed to look like a rocket, and it was supposed to make a lot of noise, and it sort of did a 180 in the air and landed in this lake, and so this has all of the trappings of folklore, you know, uh,
Absolutely. Yeah.
of this story that is sort of who knows what the origin of it is, and who knows how much it has grown over time. But there's this concerted effort from these interested researchers who are actually trying to look for evidence. And so, what's interesting about this is they're actually using decent uh, equipment. Like they've got real equipment that they're using for this search, including like a submersible thing with sonar, like this drone, and they've had some early success, right? So sonar returns did show what appeared to be an unusual object submerged in the lake, and it's sizable. It's about 46 feet long and maybe 10 feet wide.
Okay.
However, since then, since that like initial success, they haven't been able to turn anything up. So they've found this object through sonar, but divers haven't been able to locate it. So that's something of an issue. It makes me think maybe it was just a misidentification or some sort of natural formation or something. So we'll see. I don't know that we're going to get a lot more information on this, unfortunately, because like I said, it's literally one like Belgian website that is reporting on it. But there are actual recorded interviews and photographs and stuff, and so it's clearly not something that was just made up for this website. I think these people are actually out here looking for something. It's just not getting like super wide news because it's the equivalent of like your local MUFON chapter diving in a lake. Like that's not gonna get worldwide coverage, unfortunately.
Sure.
So
What's the story on the crash in the first place? Is this like a big kind of story for them? Kind of something? Is it like our? I mean, I'm assuming it's like our Roswell.
I honestly don't know. Like details are pretty scarce. So if you're from Norway and you know
You
more
have
about
these answers.
this,
Yeah.
you got to reach out. Like reach out to Asherz, reach out to me. You can always email me at info@singularfortean. Something, because I would be interested to know more. But yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know how popular of a story this is in Norway. I'm going to assume that it's fairly popular.
Sure.
I've never heard of it before, so I don't think it's really been absorbed into the larger UFO culture, but at least not yet. But it seems like a big deal in Norway. So we'll see if there's ever any follow up on this. I think it would be great if there was, but be prepared to be disappointed because a lot of the time these stories pop up and then you never hear about them again.
Yeah.
So,
Unfortunately. Well, what the fuck was going on in 1947 that the aliens were just crashing all over their fucking planet? What was going on there? Were we like the driving school area for them?
right. This was very early in UFO technology for aliens. Or maybe they just had like a really bad year. So the aliens, like, they just went through a real bad breakup. They were drinking a lot and they made some mistakes. Okay.
More than a few. Yeah. It's
Right.
they were just fucking crashing their ships all into us all the time. It's just fucking rude.
Seriously. It's funny that you mentioned that. I can't help but wonder if um, that wasn't a story that was born out of something like
Sure.
Roswell, right? Where somebody heard about it and was just like, "Oh yeah, no, that happened here too." You know?
And then it just spread. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's folklore.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, like it would not surprise me at all. So,
Interesting.
if they actually find a crashed object down there, then we'll know that that isn't what happened. But if they don't, well, that's probably that's the explanation I'm going with.
Yeah,
So
47 feet. That's pretty significant. They're going to get down there and they're like, we didn't find any UFOs. We just found this pesky sea monster. Who cares about it?
yeah, yeah, right.
I hope that's what happens. We'll
That would
see,
be
though.
if it's a dangerous one, that would make a great horror movie.
It
Is all I'm
would.
saying.
It would. It would.
All right. So I don't know if you saw this. I'm sure you probably did. More UFO news. AARO has a new report. So for anybody not familiar with that acronym, that stands for the All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, which is the Pentagon's current project to investigate UFOs. And so AARO has come out with a report recently to say that they have found no evidence that any United States government investigation, academic sponsored research, or official review panel has confirmed that any sighting of a UAP, which is of course, government for UFO, represented extraterrestrial technology. And furthermore, they say they found no empirical evidence for claims that the US government and private companies have been reverse engineering extraterrestrial technology. And what's great about this is it's literally the Pentagon going, okay, guys, we investigated ourselves and have found no evidence of wrongdoing. So it's fine. Just let it go.
Yeah, we talked about this last week, but I did want to hear your take
Okay.
on it. But the sidebar, real quick, I was explaining to my daughter UFO term, and I was like, "Do you know what UFO stands for?" And we were kind of talking about it, and I was explaining to her. I was like, "Well, the government calls them UAPs," and she looks at me and her wise self, and her wise 12-year-old self, and goes, "No," and that was it.
Right.
And I told her, yeah, we all very much feel the same way. But anyway, back to what we're saying. Yes, they investigated themselves and they found that they have done nothing wrong.
Yeah, so that should be some peace of mind for everybody. Nothing to worry about here. The Pentagon looked into it and discovered that they haven't actually been hiding anything. So no need to keep looking. We can all pack up and go home.
Even though, you know, even though, like when the Tic Tac video came out, right? They were like, "That's not ours."
Right.
And then later was like, "Oh yeah, never mind, that's ours." You know what I mean? Like they have actively been dishonest.
Oh yeah.
Like I was saying last week on the show, if they had put in the report those incidences where they were wrong, where they did lie, where they did pretend that they weren't involved in it, which I get it. They worked around the verbiage so that way they weren't covering that. But had they at least admitted fault somewhere, I think we all would believe them a little bit easier. But I don't think any of us believed them.
No. No, I don't think very many people do. At least not anybody in ufology.
No.
This is the kind of stuff that gets the mainstream to disregard this topic, which is
Yeah.
probably the point. I doubt the Pentagon gives a fuck what I think about UFOs,
Right.
but they very much care what the general mainstream opinion on that subject is. And so controlling that narrative is of tantamount importance to them.
Yeah.
And this is the kind of stuff that allows them to control that narrative, is coming out and saying, hey, there's just no evidence for this, despite all of the evidence that we have for it, which admittedly is mostly in the form of witness testimony. Like most
Hmm.
recently, I think the one everybody was talking about was David Grush, who's the guy who testified in front of Congress that that he had seen evidence of crash retrievals and government cover ups and all this other stuff, and that he had paid a price for uncovering it. And I don't think that's something that people necessarily undertake lightly, to testify in front of fucking Congress. Now, the other side of that, of course, is the conspiracy minded who would say, okay, but how do we know that this isn't a Mirage Men thing, right?
Hmm.
Like, how do we know that he isn't just another Richard Doty trying to feed us all these red herrings to misdirect us, right? And we don't know that, like that's part of the fun. All I'm saying is like, um, it's it's a convoluted fucking mess, like the entire field is. But the Pentagon really, I don't think, can just come out and say, okay, well, there's nothing to this, um, given what we've already heard, and expect people who know better to just believe them. Like it just ain't right.
I was saying last week how when these things used to come out, I used to read them. I mean, really read all of them.
Mm-hmm.
I read all of that fucking COVID bill, right, with all the UAP stuff in it. Fucking read it. And I said, I'm not doing that anymore because I'm just going to let someone else is going to read it on the internet, right? I'll just get the Cliff Notes version. Mostly I'm not going to read it anymore because I'll tell you exactly what it says. It's what it says on it, word for word. Don't come yet. Because it's more edging. That's all it is. Fucking UFO disclosure edging. That's it.
Sure.
I'm so over it. It's so annoying to me. Um, I would prefer that they just didn't say anything at all. I mean, I know some people really are into this. Like they make this their um whole life. I know. I've been on UFO Twitter.
Oh yeah, they make a lot of money off of this.
They do. But God, I just wish they had never fucking said anything. Of course, I was excited at first, right when this all first started happening.
Right.
I remember one of the first New York Times articles with the representative from the Pentagon that was like, well, this is the one thing I've said constantly that's never been brought back up again. There was an article going around initially where somebody from the Pentagon, one of the talking heads there said, "We have craft, and we don't know what they are." And that point's never been brought back up again until Grush comes out and starts talking, and he's like, "Hey, there's craft." But then he never really points to that article, and then of course they never said anything more about it. Um, anyway, after that point, I was like, you know what? Again, I was fucking fooled. I was fooled into thinking that something was going to come of all this, and it just isn't going to. It's just not going to. And I am of that opinion, of that mind that alien life being actually recognized by any type of scientific circuit at all is going to be at the hands of, guess what, alien life, coming out and holding
Sure.
their own press conference going, hey, we're here.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I tend to agree. Like, I mean, my investigations focus on eyewitnesses.
Yeah.
Like when I'm writing about UFOs or something, I'm writing about an experience that a real person has had. Because you're right, like this government stuff, I don't think it's likely to go anywhere, at least not very quickly. And I think that if what you're looking for is some kind of truth in all of this, you're not going to find it in the Byzantine corridors of the fucking Pentagon.
Right.
You're not going to find it through government disclosure. You'll find it through getting out there and talking to people and hopefully experiencing it for yourself even. And so that's where it's really at. But like the unfortunate reality is that we have to cover this stuff because it affects the whole field. It
Yeah,
really, really
absolutely.
does.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm totally happy to talk about it. I mean, like I said, some people, this is all they do is like the government side of
Yeah.
UFOs.
Ugh,
Right.
bad.
And they're just barking up the wrong fucking tree.
Oh,
They're
for
they're
sure.
they're making these demands of truth and honesty. And I've said before why I believe we'll never get that is because I don't fucking think the government knows that much.
Probably not. Yeah. That's where I'm at with it as well,
Right,
honestly.
that's the secret. The secret is they fucking don't know and they're scared to tell us that because of how we'll react. And we won't believe them anyway, right? Even if they said that.
Sure.
Because they
Well,
have
the other
said it.
thing is
You know.
it's not in their best interest strategically to admit
Yeah,
that they don't know. So like
right.
even if okay, there's not a high likelihood that China or some other enemy out there is going to necessarily believe, at least not wholeheartedly, that we have recovered like UFOs and we have all these crash retrievals and that we've reverse engineered technology. And so we have this huge edge. But if we can have that create any doubt, if we can have anybody believe that even a little bit, or just have it like cloud the issue, that gives us a leg up in the intelligence game.
It
And
does.
when it
Yeah.
comes to intelligence, you'll take any fucking advantage you can get.
Hmm.
So
Absolutely. So we'll see. We'll wait for the next report to drop in like another year and I'll let someone else read it and tell me what happens.
right.
You know? In the meantime, I'll continue to work with, as you said, eyewitnesses, right? Try to make my own. I've been experimenting with trying to make my own contact lately. It's been interesting. We'll see how that goes. Nothing yet, but if it happens, you guys will know about it first here on this show. So
Nice.
tell your friends. They want to hear about it. So we'll see what happens. If I can, I'll bring an alien on this show. We'll talk to him.
You should.
We'll interview him right here, and he'll tell us all
Good.
his secrets. It'll probably be one of the creepy mantises because I'm sure that's the only life forms we can get to come on the show.
Yeah, just don't shake hands with them. You know, you don't know. You don't know what they've been doing.
Oh, I know what they've been doing. uh, anyway, do you have other news?
Yeah, actually, I have one more,
Sure.
if that's okay. This one is it's not government UFOs, that's for sure. This is a report that actually it came into Lon Strickler over at Phantoms and Monsters, and I talked to him a little bit about it behind the scenes too. But long story short, this is from a witness who said that they were out fishing early in the evening of October 10th, 2020, near the power plant south of I'm going to guess that this is Marseille, Illinois, but who knows? Because like if we anglicize that name, then it might be like Marcellus or Marcellus, but normally it would be Marseille, I think, probably because
That
it
sounds
looks like
right. We have a Versailles here, and I know what
okay,
you mean about the
because it looks
L's.
like a French name, yeah.
Yeah.
But and which is weird because I was born in Illinois. I don't know where this. I've never been to this place, so I'm not exactly
Do you
sure.
mean Illinois? I'm just
God
kidding.
damn it! You know what? We're done. No. I just hang up immediately. No. But but yeah. Anyway, so I'm pretty sure it's Marseille, Illinois. But regardless of how we pronounce it, this person said that they were out bass fishing with their friend and their son and another friend, and they're over at like near the cooling pond near this power plant, right? And so they're out and they're fishing and they're sitting and talking and whatever, you know. And at about 6 p.m., they're just about ready to pack it in, right? And that's when they saw what was described as this humanoid with wings. So they basically described it as looking like a tall man with really big wings, and it wasn't making any noise. Um, it wasn't really flapping its wings. They estimated it to be maybe 20 or 30 feet in the air, and they just said it flew off towards the power plant in just a straight line, and that was it. You know, they didn't report any other paranormal phenomena or anything else happening as a result. Although, you know, I asked Lon about this because it had happened, you know, several years ago. And this was actually a report that he had received and just not published um, because at the time, I think he was sort of questioning if it was anything to do with other reports we were receiving at that time. And since he's sort of rediscovered some of these and been like, oh, you know, this is probably interesting. You know, I should probably be putting this out there. And so I asked him, you know, if he had spoken to this witness, and he said that he thought he had, but uh, regardless, you know, the report itself seems comprehensive. You know, there aren't a lot of details that I would be looking for that this witness didn't include. They were very thorough. The big one for me, of course, would be, hey, did you experience other paranormal phenomena around this time, or have you had any other experiences throughout your life? You know, those are questions that usually get pretty big returns for me when I ask them of witnesses. But you know, its location is close enough to Chicago. It's only, I think, several dozen miles, kind of southwest from the Chicago metropolitan area, and about the same distance south or southwest from a dozen different winged humanoid sighting areas. So yeah, that really places it firmly within the boundary of the Lake Michigan Mothman phenomenon, and that makes it interesting. So, you know, it's not one that we have a ton of info for, unfortunately. And I actually did end up publishing it under reports from the void, just because I couldn't get good confirmation about the witness actually being directly spoken to. But it's an interesting report, regardless. And I thought people would enjoy reading about it. So here we go.
When did he get the report?
I think it was back in 2020.
Oh, okay. So it was after, Lake Michigan Mothman became a thing.
Sure. Yeah, because that really got popular in well, everything kicked off sort of in the spring of 2017. There were reports that had been published prior to that,
Right.
by several years, but they never really took off. And so the
Mhm.
phenomenon itself, I would say, wasn't really in the public consciousness until spring of 2017.
Gotcha. You said it was a couple years, so I was curious.
Oh, sure. Yeah,
What it
no.
was.
So I think he got it in 2020. It would have
Sure.
had to have been late 2020. And then he
Interesting.
just sat on it,
You know,
for whatever reason.
the real question is though, did they catch any fish?
I don't know. That haunts me to this
I
day.
know, right? That's going to keep me up at night.
That's the real
Um,
mystery. And
we
now
gotta find out.
we'll never know. We're never going to have an answer. Like,
Oh,
honestly, we might as well just wait for government disclosure because we're never going to know about these fucking fish.
how that went, or I
Right?
don't know. It was him and his son, was it?
It was like the guy and one of his friends and his
Oh,
son and another friend.
I hope they had a good time, regardless. Um, you know, uh,
Yeah, I mean, fishing next to a power plant. What else? What else could you
that's
want?
that's interesting to me. I know that's probably perfectly safe, but if you watch Shin Godzilla, you know exactly why that's a
Right?
bad idea. No, it is interesting. Sometimes I forget people aren't me, so they don't know all the reports. It is very interesting, and it's interesting that he described it. He didn't use the words Mothman. I always think that's neat.
Yeah.
When people don't say,
Very
"Oh,
few
I saw
people
a
do.
Mothman," right? Exactly. So when they describe it as something different than that, I don't know. It adds just a peppering of credibility in there. I like that.
Yeah, I didn't see anything in this report that would flag it immediately as an obvious hoax or anything like that. In
Right.
fact, there are some there's some stuff that doesn't make sense in a way that would lead me to believe it might even be less likely that it's a hoax. Like, for instance, um, for whatever reason, let's see. The actual report says, let's see, blah, 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 fishing over at the cooling pond near the power plant south of Marseille, Illinois. This location is in LaSalle County in southern Illinois. This is nowhere near southern Illinois. Like, this is in the top third of the state, like the
Hmm,
northern third. And
interesting.
so, yeah, like that makes me think that like this dude is not from here. Like, he's
Yeah,
visiting from Wisconsin or something. And they're like going out with their friend and they're just like, oh yeah, I don't know. We drove for like 3 hours. We had to be in southern Illinois by then, right?
well, and everybody knows that Illinois is just Chicago, right? The rest of it doesn't
Yeah,
even
right.
count.
I mean, that's yeah, an unfortunate number of people do believe that.
Yeah,
But yeah,
that's
no,
true.
I mean, like, it's just that little detail where I'm like, if you were making this up, it would have been so easy to make sure that you didn't
Yeah,
include some like an obvious faux pas like that.
sure.
But if you were just like telling it off the top of your head and you weren't really from there, like you were visiting from somewhere else and you thought you were just farther south than you were, sure, you might include that.
Interesting. Oh. Well, I mean, one thing's for sure. People should be following singular40.com if they want to get this news before they hear it here. I mean, it's okay for you guys to hear us talk about it, but it's not a bad idea to start checking out the articles over there. I hear the writer is an English major. And so,
He has a degree in fucking English, actually.
oh, okay,
So
well, my bad.
yeah,
Um,
I wouldn't take him too seriously.
get those reports and then come listen to us talk about them, because we're going to share them here. So
It's true.
Are you ready to talk about this chimpanzee?
Yeah, I'm ready to be sad. Let's do it.
Ready to be sad. It is tough. It is a tough subject. So viewer discretion is advised. Clearly this is going to be. It doesn't have a happy ending, but it is an interesting topic nonetheless. As a matter of fact, when I started doing research for it for this episode, I was really engrossed in the research. I was really interested.
Mhm.
There is a lot to this, and I'm not going to go into full on tangents about all of it. But Tobias, what's your history with this story? I'm sure you were aware of it before this.
Yeah, this is one of my many morbid curiosities.
Hmm.
And so when it comes to chimp attacks, like I tend to follow them when they pop up. And yeah, so I remember this when it happened. I remember following it as it happened,
Yeah.
and the poor victim, obviously, kind of
Hmm.
following her experience as it was portrayed in the media following this. And yeah, so I think that when you mentioned it to me, like, or when you texted me to say like, hey, we're gonna do Travis, and I was just like, oh shit, all right, well, I could do that right now, you
Yeah.
know, like that's
Right.
violence. I don't even need I don't need any prep to talk about chimp attacks. Like they're always like they're I shit you not. They are at like the front of my mind way too often. Like a
You know,
fucking chimpanzee. If I saw a chimpanzee just in the street, I'd shoot it. I wouldn't even think about it. Just immediately I would fucking shoot that thing. If it was
um,
unattended, fuck yes.
it doesn't surprise me that you are a chimp attack expert, or enthusiast. I don't know which one's correct, but
I don't know, like whatever noun, because it's not. I'm not like for them, I'm not like, oh man, gotta get some more chimp attacks. But yeah, there is like a morbid curiosity,
yeah,
and I don't mean that in the sense like I don't. It's weird to describe because there's nothing entertaining about this for me. You know what I mean? There really isn't. Like it's almost like this is just a huge fear of mine, really. And so I am fascinated by it because I am fucking terrified of it.
you're just ready.
Because I mean
You're
seriously,
you got
because
to be
like
prepared.
the the way that these animals attack people and the damage that they
Mhm.
do combines all of my worst fears about being permanently disabled.
Yeah,
Like
it's
all of them.
horrific. Yeah, absolutely. They could fuck you up. That's for sure. And I don't know what's worse, being killed by an animal mauling or being permanently disfigured. Probably permanently disfigured.
They
Um,
go for the genitals
mhm.
and
Yep.
then like the face. They'll tear all your fingers off. Like you, like seriously, are left like blind and castrated and mutilated
Yeah.
in a way that it's just the scariest fucking thing I can think of. Like
Yeah.
it really, really is. Like
And,
it's
and what
just
do you got left? After that. I mean,
right.
so I understand. I'm also fascinated by um, chimp attacks or animal attacks or what have you. It's it sounds horrible to be interested in these types of topics, but I can assure you it's very normal. There's a reason why gore is very popular on the internet. It's just a morbid curiosity that a lot of us have, and there's a reason why they tend to be one of the most popular episodes that we do here on the podcast. You guys are fucking freaky, and you like this stuff, and I like telling you about it. So without further ado, let's get into it. What fascinates me behind stuff like this, and especially um, this account in particular, it is the background of it. I do
Mhm.
find that interesting. What led up to this? At the end of the day, we know it's because you shouldn't own wild animals, but there's a little more to it than that. So,
Oh yeah.
um, let's get into it. Travis was born in Festus, Missouri, at Mike and Connie Braun Casey's campground, which this is what I spent most of my time researching, is its own fucking rabbit hole. So this couple, Mike and Connie, had a chimp breeding compound, and most of the time they were breeding these chimpanzees for show business. Like that's what they were doing. It was relatively new at the time, so like I believe it was Travis's father. He was ripped away like from his natural habitat and shipped off here to live here the rest of his days and breed and make babies. And they were eventually shut down, not related to the Travis incident, but just because they are, well, terrible people and they're not really treating the chimps in a great way. And it was as shitty as they are, PETA that shut them down. So, you know, there's a win for them. I'll give them that.
Yes, PETA has done one good thing.
Yeah,
Congrats.
exactly one good thing. So anyway, uh what's his name, Travis. He was born here at this compound in Missouri. He was purchased 3 days after birth by Sandra. I think it's Sandra. I don't know if it's Sandra or Sandra. I'm going with Sandra. Sandra and Jerome Harold for about $50,000. Okay. So Sandra had actually fallen in love with chimps prior to this point. She had gone on some trip somewhere, had seen a chimp performing in a rodeo, and she just loved him. She loved him. And so she decided to get one of her own, and she did. And this was Travis. And she takes Travis home, back to their home in Connecticut, and starts treating him like a baby. She fed him formula. She she started dressing him in human clothes. I mean, this was her child. This was her infant child. Fucking weird.
Uh-huh.
But Travis benefited from this lifestyle, right? I mean, it was pretty lavish. He was spoiled fucking rotten, got everything he wanted. The Heralds outfitted their whole house to accommodate Travis. They built him his own room, which was a cage. It's a giant cage, but it is his own room that when they couldn't be around him, he would be locked up in there doing his own thing. But like, they had like fucking tire swings in their living room. I mean, everything in the house was catered to Travis living there and thriving. So I mean, they were doing something kind of right, trying to enrich his environment and recognizing that guess what, he is an animal. Um, but as he continued to grow up and continued to take on certain humanistic attributes, I believe Sandra kind of, whatever the fuck her name is, Miss Harold kind of fed
It
into
doesn't
that.
matter.
It doesn't matter, right? Whatever. She kind of fed into that a lot more and started treating him more and more human. So they were millionaires by luck. They owned several small businesses, and Travis ended up becoming kind of the mascot for their towing company that they had. And he had his own enclosure built on like the roof of their towing company. People would come by and take pictures with him all the time. He eventually graduated to riding with the with the tow trucks. And can you fucking imagine that? Like, you're pissed off, right? You're having your fucking car towed, and here
Right.
comes a fucking tow truck with a chimpanzee. You're not gonna argue,
No, and it would be adorable if you don't know anything about chimps. Like,
right?
I get it. I get why people like it. It seems very fun and whimsical,
He was. He had hats. He wore baseball hats. You
right?
know, fucking love that for him. It is cute and fun. And during that age, he was cute and fun. And this is typically what happens a lot of times is that during those ages, they are cute and fun and easy to manage. But it just kind of continued to grow. You know, he was very friendly with everybody, and people would let Travis hold their fucking babies to take pictures with them. And
That's
I
so
just,
wild.
I can't. I love animals, and I don't know. Maybe it's because I know what I know, right? But I would fucking never.
At this point, I definitely would not. I mean, I get it when you look at how chimpanzees are portrayed in media. You see them in movies and on TV and shit, and they are portrayed as these like fun, lovable little scamps, you
Yep.
know? And so a lot of people probably don't know better. If they've never seen or heard about a story like this,
Right.
or one of the many, many other instances when this exact same thing has happened to people, then they might not be familiar with how dangerous these animals can actually be.
Yeah.
Because we have done a piss poor job as a fucking society of showing people what chimps are really like. Honestly, just a
Yeah.
terrible job.
Oh yeah. And exactly. And this is definitely one of those cases. I mean, again, you think it's okay because it is okay until it's not. Um, that's the problem. But yeah, he was quickly a town celebrity. I mean, he just continued to grow in popularity. Um, the first mistake he ever made is that he loved the police. He really liked police officers and authoritative figures. So I already can't fucking trust the guy, that's a problem for me.
Fucking narc.
Right, exactly. Fucking Travis. He's just being a kiss ass. So that he was trying to get off easier. He knew what he was doing. This was premeditated.
True.
He thought if he was friends with the police, he could get away with it. Um, but anyway, it's important to note pretty much everybody, on the police force they all knew who Travis was. Everybody knew who Travis was.
Their neighbors said that they loved him, that they got
Yep.
along great with him, that he was a great listener.
Hmm.
Nobody had. There were just so many people who came out who said, "Hey, like I never had any kind of negative interaction with Travis before. He always seemed so pleasant and nice and listened so well."
Yeah.
And I guess he did right up until when he didn't.
Right up until he didn't. Travis had a lot of personality. He was definitely had a lot of human attributes to him. He could dress himself. He would take on household chores like watering the plants, feeding the horses, things like that. He knew the ice cream man's schedule. He was so. I mean, again, another sign he was very calculated. Right? He knew. Um,
We have that in common.
he knew exactly when he was coming around. Without the music and all, he's like, it's ice cream o'clock. It's
Yeah.
time. No, he really enjoyed his snacks. That was like his thing. And we know that because at his death, he was 240 pounds, which is
He
fucking
was
massive for a chimpanzee.
morbidly obese for a
Yeah.
chimp. And that's something that we should
Big
get
boy.
into later because I
Yeah.
think it contributed to all of this.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So but that was one thing. I mean, that's what he ate a human diet, and like honestly, we shouldn't even eat a human diet. Let's be real.
Oh, yeah. No, he would like have a glass of wine with dinner and shit.
Yeah.
Like it was not healthy.
No, not at all. Um, and so, but he did all kinds of things. He liked going online and looking at pictures of stuff, and he fucking enjoyed watching TV and like sports. Like that was his thing. He was so into sports and like he could work the remote control. I mean, these are all really interesting, fun things. That's fun, right? That's the fun part of the story. And I think that obviously it's adorable. you know,
Right.
um, allegedly, he drove a car at
He
some point.
could, which I mean, you could set anything behind the wheel of a car and turn it on and say they drove it. But
That's true.
he has hands. He could work the steering wheel and stuff. I bet. What's interesting too, though, another thing he was said to be able to do, which is terrifying if you think about it, is opening doors using keys.
Yeah. Yep.
So like you couldn't even get away from this fucking guy. Like you could, if he had a key he could just let himself out or in or whatever. Like, just
Mhm.
imagine waking up with fucking Travis the Chimp standing over you.
Yep. No thanks.
Yeah, hard pass.
I don't care how friendly he is. A 240-pound chump. No, thank you.
Uh-uh.
That. Yeah, he could pretty. I mean, he could basically fend for himself, but kind of in our own human world, which you're right is absolutely terrifying. He had a lot of free reign. Even though they did have the cage enclosure in the house. For the most part, he was on his own. It was very rarely that they put him in his room.
Oh, yeah.
Um, he
If
went
they did
everywhere
shit
with
like
them.
that, none of this would have happened.
Exactly. None of this would happen. No, he went everywhere with them. He had free reign of the house. He was definitely king. Allegedly he had appeared in several commercials and TV programs. Um Now when I was looking into this, because the first claim that I saw was that he had been on Maury Povich,
Yeah.
which well, how did that turn out? Was he the father or was he not? I don't know. Um isn't that what they do on the show? Like, what?
I mean, mostly. I don't know it for anything else,
Did he pass the lie detector test? I don't.
right?
Nobody. I couldn't find that answer. I looked,
I'm gonna
and
say
then
no because somebody, so like if he had like a baby mama out there,
Right.
she would have been getting money out of this somehow. So
Right. I know. And that didn't happen. So he must have not been the father.
I'm gonna assume,
Um,
yeah.
and then he was on the Man Show. Remember that? This is what they say. He was on the Man Show. Do you remember the Man
I
Show?
do remember the Man Show. That I was in my early 20s, I think, when that came out, and so that was just at the right time for me to think that that was a fucking awesome show.
Right.
And now, you know what I mean? And so, like, but looking back at it now, I'm just like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like,
It's
what were we thinking? We just okay, we were just drunk for like 5 years
just
straight.
weren't good people. That
Yeah,
just
I don't. I mean, men in their early 20s. I'm not going to try to excuse our behavior. I don't know what we were thinking, but yes, I do. I do remember that show.
I watched the Man Show as a preteen girl, and
Nice.
that's probably what's wrong with me today. So wouldn't be surprised. Some people dispute this, though. They say that no, that's just a rumor. There were a lot of rumors about Travis, and this probably could be one of them. I mean, it's fun to
Sure.
speculate, like what the fuck he was doing on the Man Show. Maybe he was on the Man Show first, and then he had to go on Maury to prove his innocence. I don't know. I'm gonna drop that bit now. I'm just saying he probably was in a lot of local commercials and things like that. Again, the Heralds weren't. I mean, they were wealthy people, and they bought this chimp specifically from a show business company. So
Right.
it's no surprise if he was on a bunch of this stuff. Um, so that's just a little bit about Travis. He was likable. I reading all this, I like the guy. He sounds like a cool. I'd hang out with Travis. Well, I wouldn't now, but I would have, right? Had I not
Right.
known better.
Sure.
And I think a lot of people also would agree. So eventually, I'm just going to kind of skip forward a little bit, again, to kind of show this unhealthy relationship that was happening here. Sandra lost her husband. I'm sorry. Sandra lost her daughter, her only child, in a terrible car accident.
Right.
There's a lot of drama surrounding all of that. She blames her son-in-law for it, which is ridiculous, but she, obviously was hurting. And then just 2 years later, she ends up losing Jerome, her husband. And so she didn't have anybody. She had Travis. She herself, she fell into this really horrible depression right before her husband had passed away. He had actually like mentioned to her, like, look, you can't handle Travis by yourself. Like, you need to figure something out. And of course, she didn't take heed to this. She, kept him, obviously. She did write a letter to an animal sanctuary and was contemplating giving up Travis to the animal sanctuary, but had, eventually changed her mind and, kept him because honestly, she was all Travis had also. He didn't know any different. Like, that was mom to him. And everybody kind of felt that, maybe it was cruel to separate them in that way. But it just got worse and worse. She started hoarding. That was another thing.
Yep.
That was the only time she ever left the house, was to go shopping. And she would just have, boxes and bags of shit in the house. So it became a really unstable and healthy living environment for her or anybody, to the point to where they were just kind of delegated. They had like they could hang out in the kitchen, and I think Travis's room was okay, but that was really the only areas of the house that they could really comfortably hang out at.
Yeah, there were like garbage bags of unworn clothes and stuff everywhere.
Yeah,
It just sounds like, obviously, and I'm not a psychologist, but from reading up on this, from people who actually know what the fuck they're talking about, like it sounds like she really heavily spiraled, and I don't think anybody could blame her for that.
right.
It's bad enough, losing your child, obviously, like that's devastating, and then to lose your husband in such a short time afterward, it really seems like she got into this sort of codependent relationship with Travis, and so she is feeding all of his all of his worst habits
Yeah,
at this point. There is no discipline in his life. There is nobody to tell him no, and he is is just allowed to be decadent on a level that, like, just as a normal pet owner, I can't even imagine. It's like, yeah, my dogs would eat ice cream for breakfast every day if I let him. But like, it's my job not to let them do that. You
Right.
know, like, obviously, no, you can't do that.
Yeah. Right. She wasn't taking care of herself. She couldn't really take care of Travis at that point. Um, and then the socialization kind of stopped.
Right.
They didn't go out anymore. And she just kind of stayed home all the time. But that was jumping ahead a little bit. Right before her husband's death, they had an incident happen.
Mm.
So this occurred in October of 2003. They were both in the car with Travis. They were sitting at an intersection, and a pedestrian decides to throw an empty soda bottle at the vehicle.
What a dick, honestly.
Exactly.
Like, who does
Yes.
that?
Yeah. Yeah. What a dickhead. Why? We don't know. We don't know who the pedestrian is. I think he got away. Well, clearly he did. Yeah, he throws the bottle in the car. It enters the car window and it hits Travis. And Travis reacted and he had a bit of road rage. So he unbuckles his seatbelt because he can. He let himself
Right?
out of the car because he can, and proceeded to chase the pedestrian. Um, Now this sounds a little, and maybe I'm making assumptions. It sounds more violent than it's initially portrayed. Right? So he is, what's the term there? He is the pedestrian started it.
Fair.
And he gets out and starts chasing the pedestrian, and that's kind of the main report. And I do feel that maybe this main report is a little sensationalized, because the police show up. I think there were some already that were kind of there, so they had a really quick response. And they kind of start chasing Travis around, trying to get him in the car, and he's being playful with them. He will get into the car, they'll get him in, and then he will go to the other side and let himself back out again.
I just love the visual
Yeah,
because this is so like, literally, this is something out of some like family comedy starring a chimpanzee, where like they get him in
yeah,
the car and then he just scoots across the back seat and goes out the other side, and then he chases the cops around the car for a while, and the whole
yeah,
time like the theme to fucking Benny Hill is
yeah.
playing.
The laugh
Like,
track.
yeah, it's just like, Jesus.
Yeah, it is very playful. And right before that, they had showed up. He wasn't chasing the pedestrian at that point, and he was just kind of rolling around in the middle of the street, just kind of hopping around and bopping around. So what I think happened, and I'm no expert and I wasn't there, is that yes, the bottle hitting him did trigger him.
Yeah.
I don't think that he was going after that pedestrian to be violent or mean or horrible. I think that he saw it as an invite to play, and that's what he
I could see
did.
that.
Right.
Because that, like, that's not going to hurt him, you know?
Right.
Like, I'm sure he wasn't like, oh, ouch. It was, it's probably like, oh, this is a fun game.
Well, it's stuff like
Let's
plastic
play.
bottles and jugs. Like these are enrichment toys that they use for these types of animals in
Right.
confined settings. So I mean, he's probably played with a bottle or two in his time.
Who
um,
hasn't?
exactly. I think that he thought that it was fun, and he thought that that was his cue. But the danger comes into play because he was not listening
Right.
to Sandra tell him to stop and listen and get back in the car. He wasn't listening to the police trying to corral him back in the car. He was
Yes.
doing what he wanted to do.
He's already showing a dangerous level of independence in that he is demonstrating a couple of big things right off the bat here. The first and foremost, he is capable of unbuckling his own seatbelt
Yeah,
and opening a door and leaving that vehicle. Now,
right.
the number two thing then that this demonstrates is that they aren't taking proper fucking safety precautions with this fucking chimp.
Right.
If he's in a position where he can just leave the car whenever he wants, then you've already fucked up.
Exactly. Yep.
Like we're already seeing evidence that this animal is not being kept safely.
Yep. Exactly. And he's being defiant.
Yeah.
You're unable to control him. Even if his goal at that time, at that day, like I said, I do think it was sensationalized by the news after the end, after the attack.
If he wanted to
This is
rip
not
that
the
guy's dick off, his
he
dick would
could
be
have.
ripped off.
Right,
Yes.
exactly. Or anybody else. He could have turned on anybody else. I don't think this was a violent act,
Right.
but it was a defiant act that nobody can control. What are you gonna do about it? About 200 fucking pound chip. What are you gonna
Get your dick ripped off.
do?
I mean, unless you got a gun or something,
Rip your dick
basically.
off. you know. Um, so they're having issues controlling him. They're trying to corral him into the car, and the report that day, nobody was really concerned. I mean, the police officer said that he was very playful. He was just his usual self. They weren't concerned about violence, and even like people locally. I mean, there were some people that were like, that fucking chimp, because they just hate chimps, and that's fine. They got good reason,
Right.
to be afraid of them. Um, you know, it didn't really, people weren't that concerned, but it did kind of get the conversation going a little bit about the legality of keeping this guy, right?
Yeah.
Um, this kind of led to the Connecticut General Assembly to have a discussion and create a law to prohibit people from owning primates that weighed over 50 pounds and then requiring permits for any exotic animals.
But don't worry, it wasn't enforced against Travis.
It wasn't exactly.
Ah,
It did not.
ridiculous.
They started the conversation in 2003. It did not get enforced until after the tragic event that we're getting ready to get into. But even if it had, they'd already kind of pre-decided that they weren't going to enforce it there.
Yep.
Because just it was easier, right? Travis was a local celebrity. They didn't want to look badly for ripping him away from his home, and from the public. Honestly, that was it. You know?
They turned a blind eye to a very dangerous situation, and on the surface, the reasoning was that, oh well, everybody knows Travis, like it's
Right.
fine, he's not dangerous,
Yep.
like he's a member of the community. But yeah, I think that you are correct, that it was just easier not to do anything,
Yeah.
and they were just kind of hoping that everything would be fine,
Yeah.
and of course it was not.
Yeah. And that they could just kind of drag their feet on this law, which they did, um, instead of really putting it in place until after they needed it. So, but, I digress again. I'm of the opinion that I don't think this particular incident was violent, but it was definitely signs of something going wrong.
Well, it's
So
fucking concerning.
it is. It should be to any regular person. But these are exotic pet owners. They're fucking bonkers.
Yeah, they're already bananas for sure.
So that's already a bad mix. So let's get into Charla and how she plays a part in all this. So Charla Nash was friends with Sandra for a very long time. Actually, they had met each other many years prior. Charla and Sandra had kind of reconnected after, her husband had died, and Charla was struggling at the time. She was a single parent, struggling to make ends meet. She had a daughter to attend to,
Yeah,
and
battling homelessness, like
yeah,
it was
it was bad.
dire.
It was really bad. And Sandra, wanted to help her out, and I think Sandra kind of also felt like this was a good opportunity for it to kind of try to pull herself out of the funk that she had been in, because she was, emotionally struggling. She didn't have anybody. So she offered to let Charla come stay at, they had like a loft apartment on their property, that Sandra's daughter had been living at prior to all of these events at one point. And she said, hey, you can come live with me rent free and just kind of do stuff for me sometimes, kind of help me out with the towing company, kind of help me with Travis here and there, help around the house and stuff like that. And of course, Charlotte was like, hell yeah, brother. Yeah, that sounds good. And took her up on the offer. And Sandra was I mean, she was very generous with Charla. They had a great friendship going on. She would take her out shopping because that's what Sandra loved to do. Was buy more shit that she didn't need.
Yeah, right.
But this time she could let someone else buy their own stuff. She gave her tons of money all the time. It was a great time. So The weekends, right before the events we're going to discuss are kind of important. Sandra and Charla actually went out. They went on a trip, like a girls' trip. And, for them to go out on, it was like a gambling trip. They were going to go gamble, and when they were going out for the trip, Sandra was like, she took Charla out. She said, "Hey, let's go ahead and get you a new hairstyle." And they did. They cut her hair and colored it. I think she got a perm or something too. She just treating her to girly things. And just in case they had met some men on their trip or whatever.
Oh, you never know when you're going to meet a couple of eligible bachelors.
They're around every corner. And they love chimpanzees, so but they go out, they have a really good weekend. It was really fun, and they come back, and life was supposed to proceed as normal. Some people think that her changing her hair is important to this case. I don't know. We'll talk about that when we get there. So, February 16th, 2009. Um, it was a really important day, unfortunately. Um, Sandra had kind of noticed that Travis was struggling. So, right when she lost her husband, he really grieved Jerome's passing as well. That was his buddy. Like they watched
Right.
sports together, they drank wine together. you know, that was his best friend. He had alcohol.
Yeah,
It's-
right.
this is his good buddy. So he also, I mean, he really did. He would struggle. He would carry around a picture of him all the time, and he was just having a hard time with it. And this may have been one of those days. It might not have been. I don't know. Sandra notes that he just was not, he didn't have any interest. And, he didn't want to watch TV. He didn't want to play with his cat. He didn't want to eat, and she was like, okay, well, obviously he's having a hard time. Let's give him some drugs.
Yeah, here's some Xanax.
Yeah.
This should help.
So she pops Xanax into his drink. He drinks it, and they go on about their day. So he does kind of perk up a little bit later. Um, she was getting ready. So Sandra's trying to get ready to, she's gonna go meet with a friend, right? And she's leaving Travis at home. And Travis decided to take Sandra's keys and let himself outside.
Yeah, so remember how the fucking chimp can use keys to open doors?
Yeah, right. Um, you should probably not have your keys available for your chimp that can fucking use keys and
I
open
mean,
doors.
at this point, like she is eating and even sleeping in the same bed as him.
Yeah,
Like Travis can just do whatever the fuck he wants, whenever the fuck he
yeah.
wants to.
He's got complete free reign. And she's treating him like she would a husband, frankly, at that point. I mean, I hope not, in
Well,
certain
maybe not
aspects,
completely,
but
more like a close, like a son,
a young
basically.
adult child, yes. A
Yeah.
young adult son, I would say.
Although they
Um,
sleeping in the same bed would still be weird. It
yeah,
doesn't matter. It's not a one for one comparison. He's a chimp.
it's not, no. Either way, he's got free reign to the point to where he takes her keys and lets himself outside. And he's outside and he's fucking running amok. Now, this property, just the way that all this is described, I was curious about kind of what the property was like because they describe him like jumping around on cars and shit. And I'm like, so what? People are just driving down the road and a fucking chimp is jumping around. It's not like that. She owns several cars. He's
Right.
like in her driveway. And like she lives in like a gated area. Now, granted, he could easily get out of that gate. He's not. He's in the front yard area, and he's kind of jumping car to car, implying that he wants to go for a ride, right? And that's what she's assuming, but she can't. She doesn't have time to do that. She's got to go meet with her friend, and Travis needs to get back in the house and go to his room, but he's not cooperating. He's not listening, and eventually she's on the phone with Charla, and there's some debate as to how this went down. I'm gonna go with the victim and go with Charla's story. Charla says that Sandra called her and asked her to come help get Travis back inside. And so she does. This is just a typical Tuesday for her. I don't know what day it was, but we're gonna say Tuesday. Um why not? It's Wednesday. There we go. And she decides to head on over there. She jumps in her car and goes over there, and she brings along a Tickle Me Elmo doll. which was one of Travis's favorites. And, to kind of coax him into listening, like, hey, you can have this doll if you get back in the house, like you would with a child, right? So she comes to the property, she pulls up, parks her car, she gets out, and she's holding the Tickle Me Elmo kind of in front of her face a little bit. And Travis sees it, and I mean, he just charges at her. Of course, I think she's expecting a warm welcome. She did not get that. Travis pushes her up against the side of the car, and then he eventually knocks her onto the ground. And at that point is on top of her and, well, ripping her fucking face and genitals off. So, because that's what they do. I don't think he ripped her genitals off. At least nobody's ever said. Um,
Yeah, I mean they generally will go for that, but I don't know. I'm not like a primatologist,
sure.
obviously, but it's sort of my understanding that men get that a lot worse probably than
Yeah.
women do.
Well, it's easier to grab onto, you know?
Right, but they chimps bites are vicious too, and
Oh,
so
yeah.
they'll bite all your fingers off,
Yeah.
and they'll bite your face off while they're beating you to death.
Yeah.
It's horrific.
And that's, I mean, basically, just let's get into the gory details. That's basically Sandra was saying was happening. He
Right.
is ripping at her face. He's peeling pieces of her face off. He's eating them. He is just, he's just constantly going at her. Sandra grabs a shovel nearby. Of course, she tried to scream at him, and he wasn't. He was busy. So she grabs a nearby shovel. She tries hitting him with it, and it's not doing anything. He's still going at it. Sandra then goes into the house and makes probably, I'll give her credit here. Yeah, probably the hardest decision she's ever had to make in her whole life. And grabs a butcher knife, runs out. She stabbed him, and it did nothing. And she stabs him two more times, and eventually he stopped and looked at her, which of course she describes as, this is a moment he looked at her with just complete betrayal and heartbreak in his eyes.
I
But then he
mean,
turned around and kept doing it. So,
right. Like, should we really be accepting the narrative of the woman who has already anthropomorphized this fucking animal to the
right,
point where she's allowed it to, like, try to murder and horrifically mutilate her best friend?
right. Yeah, she describes it as, I stabbed my son, is how she was
No,
describing it
you
to
stabbed
people.
your pet chimp, you irresponsible, like, fucking idiot. Oh my
Right.
God.
Exactly. And I say this phrase a lot, and it's true. All feelings are valid, but all feelings aren't true logic. And so she probably did feel that way. I will give that to her a little bit.
Oh,
It
sure.
doesn't mean she's right.
No, of course not. I don't doubt she felt that way,
Yeah,
but she's still fucking wrong, and we
she's still
can't
fucking
allow
wrong.
people to do shit like that.
Yeah, exactly. And again, it didn't stop him. He continued
Mhm.
his assault on Charla, and assuming that Charla's dead,
Yeah.
which is probably, honestly, that's a good assumption to make, right?
Everybody thought she
Um,
was until she moved.
until she wasn't, right?
Yeah.
She was until she wasn't. Sandra kind of she runs into her car. She's got a nearby car there. She locks herself in and calls the police. And this is where you can hear this 911 call, and it's fucking horrific. It's scary.
Yeah, it
And
is.
man, I fucking hate. Let me tell you. I'll tell you something about this nine. And this is how I think a lot of people got familiar with the story is because of that 911 call. Um, I hate that dispatcher. God, he was such a dick. And I don't know what it is about him. I think which a lot of people said he probably didn't think it was real, right? I guess I
He
can't
he he thought it
fault
was a
him.
hoax. Yeah,
Right, because there's a fucking chimp screaming in the background, and she's just frantic and screaming, and he's like, "What? What's happening? Who's
right.
kill Who's eating your friend?"
Yeah.
And,
It sounds crazy, so, I mean, I
it
get
does.
why he would be, skeptical,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, and, if you guys wanna go off and listen to it, go listen to it. You've probably heard already. It is heartbreaking, honestly, it
It
is,
is.
especially knowing what's going on at that moment. But she is very upset, and she's pleading, bring the police, bring a gun, you have to shoot him, you have to. And after 12 minutes, the police finally do arrive. And Travis, at that point with the police, right, remember he likes the police. Those are his buddies. Upon arriving, he immediately goes for one of the patrol cars, and he had smashed off one of the side view mirrors. I don't know, in rage or in what, why he did it. He's trying to get in and he's, struggling to get in, but then he goes over to the driver's side door, which, fucking police 101, lock your fucking door.
Yeah, right.
And there's an officer, in the driver's seat, and he sees this fucking chimp that's covered in blood, looking crazy, opening his door. Thankfully, the officer was able to engage his weapon, shot Travis 4 times, and Travis took off running. So of course, now that they've got the animal away from the victim, they're concerned about her, and they did get out to inspect, and they thought for sure she was dead. I mean, there's fucking fingers and
People got
shit
to understand.
everywhere.
Yeah, they're like her fingers are okay. Imagine walking up on this scene and you've already seen this chimp covered in blood and you see this body and it's on the ground and the yard is littered with pieces of its face, like
Right.
there are fingers lying on the ground. The jaw has been
It's gone.
completely
Yeah.
torn off. It's fucking gone.
Yeah.
This woman doesn't have a lower jaw.
Yeah.
You're going to assume like her eyes are gone, her
Yeah.
nose is gone, her face has been torn completely off.
Mhm.
You're going to assume she's dead.
Yeah.
It's a miracle that she
But she's
survived
not.
somehow.
Yeah. And yeah, and I mean that's what they assume, but she did. I mean, for somehow, I mean, she reached up, and that was the indicator. Well, fuck, she's alive. I can't even imagine how shocking that was. I just can't. You're coming up on a dead body and it fucking moves.
That's horror movie stuff.
Yeah,
It absolutely is
co- you know,
chilling.
completely, defies all odds.
Right.
That she's laying there alive. So they're attending to her. Meanwhile, Travis has retreated. He's finally he went back in the house. I mean, my God, all it took was 3 stab wounds and 4 shotgun wounds, but he finally went in. Um, and went to his bedroom where he died. So he was gone at that point. Charla was rushed to the emergency room. She underwent surgery for 7 solid hours. It was a horrific event. The extent of her injuries are, he ripped off her eyes, her eyelids, her nose, her jaw, her lips, her scalp, one of her hands, and then most of the other hand was gone. So I mean, pretty much, I mean, he just basically ripped her to shreds. There was no face anymore at that point.
That's what I'm
Um,
saying. Like they don't just come up and like box you and like do a bunch of body blows and like break your ribs and shit. They chimps mutilate you
yeah,
in the most horrific fucking way imaginable. Like I don't think I can actually come up with another animal that I want to be attacked by less. Just
yeah,
because chimps are smart and they go for the fucking genitals and face and they
yeah,
bite all your fingers off. Like it's like genitals, face, and fingers. Those are the three things. And
yeah.
like even if you survive, like you mentioned earlier, you might wish that you hadn't because the injuries are going to be the worst fucking thing you can ever imagine. Just
Oh yeah.
your worst nightmare injuries. That's what you're going to get.
It's like they want you to live with it. Like the gyms
Right?
know.
Cruel little bastards.
Like they're calculated. It's an ice cream man schedule. He knew. He knew what he was doing. But yeah, no, I mean, it was a very tragic sight. They of course they offered counseling to all the staff that helped work on her. Because it fucking you don't see that every day in Connecticut. It's just very traumatizing for everybody. Um, Charlotte did. I mean, she lived. She lived through this. She underwent, has still to this day, I believe, still undergoes different surgeries, still around.
She had a
She's
full face transplant.
Did she? Yeah, and well,
Yes.
yeah, she did eventually. Yeah, and it's if she's still around for further advances, I'm sure we'll do it again. Yeah, just because stuff like that doesn't really go away. It kind of affects you your whole life. But she is completely blind now.
Right.
But she survived this and doesn't remember it.
That is a blessing.
Yeah, thank God for trauma.
Right. Well, she's come out and talked about it since. Like she was on
Mhm.
Oprah pretty famously. And then she's talked about it since too. And she's talked about not remembering anything that happened and talking to doctors and saying that, like, it might come back someday. It's possible she'll start having nightmares and some other memories come flooding back. And luckily it hasn't happened yet, but
Yeah.
there's psychological help for if it does. But God, if there's one thing that we could do for this poor woman, it would just be to let her not remember that.
Yeah, absolutely. Because yeah, hopefully she doesn't ever. We all talk about how horrific it is, but she was kind of blessed, in a way, to not remember. And to be honest with you, she really does have a very good outlook on life.
She does. She is
Um,
an inspiration, I think,
yeah,
because I don't know. I mean, it's impossible to say without going through something, but like, I don't think I would handle it as well as she has. Like,
right.
honestly,
Yeah, she's just very positive. She's like, you know what, things. Of course, everybody's like, but you're ugly now. Don't you feel bad that you're ugly? And she's like,
she's
hell
blind.
no. Right. She's like, I can't see it. I don't know. Okay, but you think if she wasn't blind, she would be a little more upset?
I mean, maybe honestly, like the face transplant, like you can tell she's had a face transplant, but it's
Yeah.
nothing compared to what she looked like right after the attack.
Yeah.
Um, so I mean, all things considered, I think they did as good a job as you could reasonably expect.
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of advances in plastic surgery and that kind of medicine. So, but yeah, I mean, honestly, I was thinking about that today, as I was bringing up some articles and stuff that I wanted to talk about, and yeah, that's something that I considered. I was like, it might help that she can't see
Yeah.
because she'll never know. You know,
Right. I mean, she does look pretty good now.
yeah, it's
Honestly.
way better, but
Yeah.
it's still like you can tell she doesn't look the same, and it's she's had a face transplant, but at
Well,
least she
and
has a face.
she does. She has a face now, and that's pretty amazing scientifically. It really is. It's wild. I can't say it enough how crazy it is that she survived this,
They
and
reattached her jaw.
yeah,
It
yep,
was like on the
it was
ground next
gone.
to her,
Yep, it was gone,
They
and
put it
she's
back on. Like, it's wild what fucking medicine can do now.
yeah, and so I mean, it's just it's crazy, but they did. I mean, she did. She had her first, after her initial surgeries, had her first appearance on Oprah, which I think is kind of shitty. I'll be honest with you. Um,
Yeah, I don't like making a spectacle out of victims.
right. I mean, at the end of the day, it's up to her. Maybe she wanted to talk about it, right? That's why she
I
did. She
think
agreed to
that's
go
what it
on.
was. Yeah.
Um,
I think it was up to her and she felt like it was something she needed to do. And at that point, I think that's great,
yeah,
obviously.
yeah, absolutely. If she wanted to do it, great. But I could see Oprah doing that kind of thing. But I get it. I've got the interview show coming up that you guys will hear on this show, where I talk to various people with various high strangeness, and they want to talk about their traumas. I like to talk about I don't like to talk about my traumas, but I like to share it to get it out with people.
Sure.
It's up to you as the victim to decide how to handle that. So I guess I won't knock it too much. But she has done well, and another big reason why she's done so well is because she fucking sued the shit out of Sandra.
As she should.
As she should. Initially she was suing for $50 million. They did end up settling on $4 million, but I think that most of that settlement was due to the fact that I don't think Sandra had $50 million at that point.
Yeah.
So, and she would know because she was, working with her, and
Right.
helping with her finances and stuff. So, but smart move. And of course she won. Good for her. Fantastic. As far as Sandra goes, she, the hoarding just got fucking worse. She did not live very long after that. One bad decision that she did make, though, before she died, um, I shit you not, she adopted another chimp.
God damn it, people. Why do we keep letting this happen?
Right. I don't, and she knew that she couldn't take the chimp home. So the chimp did live at like a sanctuary that she would go and visit and things like that. But I mean, still, she get a dog. Or don't get a dog because dogs attack people too. And cats do also. Get a
She can't
fish
have any animals. None.
ever. She shouldn't have been allowed to. No, that should have
No.
been. fucking stopped right then and there. But no, she did adopt a new chimp, and then eventually she died of a broken heart. That's what they say. So I'll just keep it at that. Um, why did this happen? Why did Travis go from friendly neighborhood celebrity chimp to killing machine? Tobias, do you have any speculations?
This was always a possibility.
Oh yeah.
Always.
Hmm.
This could have happened anytime. I think the probably the reason that it happened when it did is we touched on this before. You have to consider where this chimp was at, not not just physically, but like mentally. So at this
Hmm.
point, he is allowed to do whatever the fuck he wants. He eats whatever he wants. He is able to roam the house and this yard uh, because he can get out anytime he wants. He eats with Sandra. He sleeps in the same bed as Sandra. He has no restrictions. On top of that, like he's not healthy. He isn't given enough structure in his life at all. So mentally, he has issues. Physically, he's massively obese. Like
Hmm.
he is so unhealthy physically. And that is probably not affecting him, or I'm sorry, that's probably affecting him in a way that is not healthy mentally as well.
Yeah.
Um, and so when finally somebody see here's what I think might have been going on in his head when he made this vicious attack. So picture like just the worst basement dwelling neckbeard mama's boy dipshit ever, right? And then like give him super strength
Oh God.
and reduce his IQ by like 60, and like that's Travis.
Yeah.
And so he's outside. He's like, no, I want to go for a car ride. And he's not getting to go for a car ride. And then Charla shows up and she has his favorite toy.
Yeah.
And he's like, fuck you. That's my fucking toy. And he runs over and he is just going to fucking murder her because he's like, no, I'm in a bad mood. You have my toy. That's my toy. And
Hmm.
and that's it. That's as deep as this shit goes.
Hmm. Yeah.
And
I
that's
agree
a
with that.
fucking chimp. That's what a chimp is. They're primates like us, and sure they're smart, but they are not capable of rationalizing and overcoming emotions. So they're going to do whatever they feel at that time.
Yeah.
And it's bad enough that he's dealing with all of this other psychological shit, being forced to live in a way that is unnatural to him, being forced to be physically unhealthy, which I'm sure does not put him in the best fucking mood. To have none of his fucking needs met, none of his needs met as a chimp, not fucking one, you know, has probably made him so crazy that, yeah, of course, because he is ruled by his emotions, he is going to go off on everything.
Yeah.
Why nobody seems to have seen this coming is so insane to me that I
Hmm.
can't even wrap my fucking mind around it. Like the levels of irresponsibility involved here, like, are just mind blowing. Like 2003 should have been it. That should have been fucking it. And they're like, oh wow, you've been doing what with this chimp? Holy shit!
Right.
No,
Yeah, they
God
should they
no.
should and people did step in and, experts and things stepped in and gave their opinion about Travis at that time and advised them to get rid of him as a pet, you
Right.
know? It wasn't like it's not like there weren't people going, "Please do something," because they were, and they just didn't. It just didn't. And, no, I think you're right. This was he threw a temper tantrum, and
Yeah.
when you're a chimp in the wild and somebody's got your favorite toy, it's perfectly acceptable to kill the other chimp that has your favorite toy. Like, it's normal.
Yeah. Or I mean, honestly, some of the stuff that chimps do to humans, I mean, against a chimp that's as strong as they are, probably would be less devastating.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. And I don't think that he I know he couldn't rationalize, I'm going to kill this person. He was good friends with Charla. She took care of him. She was alone with him a lot. He played with her daughter. They were friends, and in all of their mind. Charlotte did not step out of that car thinking at all that there was any danger whatsoever,
Right.
and that was a mistake. And not necessarily on her part, because why the fuck would she know all about these chimps and how their behavior is, and what it's on the owner. Um Sandra should have known better and done something about this much sooner. And she didn't, against all the pleas of everybody. Her own husband, saying, please don't keep him after I die. She still did,
Right.
and I think you're right. I think, humanizing him was cruel, because he
It
was
is.
he was grieving also. Like, that's another part of it, is that, as much as, like, not to humanize him too much, but that is, animals grieve.
Well, they can. I'm not trying to imply that he's incapable
Soulless,
of
sure.
like emotion and all. Like, we know animals have emotions. My dogs have emotions. Our
Sure.
cats have emotions, and they express them in different ways. But the issue becomes when you anthropomorphize them
They can't
and
regulate.
assume, yeah, and assume that they are going to handle them in the same way that a human being does. They're not little human beings. Chimps
Right.
aren't little human beings.
Yeah.
You can have a relationship with a chimp. People do. You can have a damn good one if you're a primatologist, or at least somebody who will listen to primatologists, and
Mhm.
that chimp lives in a sanctuary and you
Right.
know how to interact with them, then I bet you could have a fantastic lifelong relationship with a chimp. But you can't let them live in your house like they're an adorable little fucking kid, because
Right.
they'll rip your dick off.
They will rip your dick off. Look at what's her name, Coco. She's great. She was great.
Love me some Coco.
No, she was a gorilla,
She
but
was a gorilla.
she was what everybody wanted Travis to be.
Right.
But she was also, guess what, in a controlled environment with people that knew how to handle her.
Yes.
Um, they weren't just letting the fucking people come to the zoo, come check her out at the zoo, and get
Oh,
in the
God, no.
enclosure with her. They did give her kittens, and she took damn good care of her kittens, as much as she could
She
for a
did.
gorilla.
Coco's Kitten was like my favorite book as a kid.
Yeah, I
Like when I was
love
a little,
Coco.
little kid, loved that book.
I'd love to talk about her one day on the show,
We should, because
because
like there's an interesting debate about whether or not she was like fully
sentient.
sapient and capable of conversation that I
Yeah.
think is anomalous enough that would be worthy of discussion.
Well, if we could talk about killer chimps, we can talk about loving gorillas. Why not?
I think as a palate cleanser, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Some people blame the Xanax in this case. Oh, she gave him the Xanax. That made him violent. No, it just was going to happen. It was
Yeah.
going to happen. You know what? It may not have ever happened, but it also probably was going to happen. I mean, he had a bad day. And when a chimpanzee that has free reign over himself and can fucking let himself out and stuff has a bad day, well, people get hurt.
Yep.
And this is again why, you know, we shouldn't keep exotic animals. We're irresponsible. We don't know what we're doing. And we think that they won't turn on us. We think that they, well, and, they didn't. And I'll tell you that. I don't think Travis probably would have ever attacked Sandra. I don't know.
Probably not.
I don't think he ever would have. But that still didn't make him safe.
No, I mean, not for the other 7 billion people on the planet.
Right, exactly. So I mean, we don't know. We can't speculate what would have happened. We can only go based off of what did happen. And what did happen was he ripped this woman's fucking face off. And she has overcome this tremendously, which I can't commend enough. I mean, good for her. you know.
Oh, she's
Uh
strong as fuck. Yeah, like
yeah.
it's incredible.
Yeah. I mean, I just like I again can't even express how I just fucking can't imagine. But she has just done a great job, living out the rest of her life, and she's doing good. And that's important too. Travis, again, he was shot and killed. His ashes are buried with Sandra. I mean, surprise, surprise. And her late husband, Um,
Seems apropos.
And, now there are laws in place where supposedly people can't do this. Now, it depends on the area, it depends on where you live. But this shit continues to happen. I don't know when the last time an animal mauling took place like this, but it seems like state to state, that's the only time that they will make laws regarding exotic animals. I know here in Ohio, you could have them up until the fucking guy in Zanesville killed himself, but before he did, let out his like fucking 300 big cats or something, something crazy. I don't think it was three. I think it was like 30. But owned all these big cats and just released them out into the wild and then committed suicide. Good luck, everybody.
Okay.
And then finally, Ohio was like, "Yeah, we should probably do something about that," and they did. But that's what keeps happening. I mean, look at how many states don't have laws against this. We all fucking watched Tiger King, didn't we? Did you watch Tiger King when it came out?
Oh, I sure did.
Fuck yeah.
I mean, it was 2020. We had, what else did we have to do?
You wouldn't get what everybody was talking about unless you did.
Right.
But I mean, yeah, I mean that shit's still going on. And then there was the Tiger King too. It's still happening. It's still happening, and we're not learning our lesson. And I don't get it.
This shit
Um,
still have 2021. There was a chimpanzee that lived on a family ranch out in Oregon. They had this thing for 17 fucking years, and it was shot dead after it attacked its 50-year-old fucking owner.
wow.
Yeah, she's lucky to have got away just with the injuries that she did. It's a 200-pound fucking ape. Bit her legs, bit her arms, bit her torso. She was able to take her daughter and shelter in a basement bedroom, and then eventually the cops show up and fucking shoot it. But holy shit, people! How have we not learned this lesson yet?
Yeah. It happens, this stuff happens, and you can kind of set off animals without realizing that you're doing it. Even your cats and dogs can be dangerous. Um I don't trust dogs. I love dogs. Don't get me wrong. I do. I love them. But I was bitten by our family dog, and it was my own fault. I was fucking with him.
Mm.
And he bit my hand. No, he didn't draw blood or anything. But and I was a teenager when it happened, but like it was in that moment in time that I realized that like I can get bitten by a dog, even a dog that loves me and trusts me, and I he
Sure.
can still bite me. Um,
That's why you got to
my
treat dogs like dogs. They're not little
right.
four-legged fucking humans. They're not your babies. Damn
Yeah,
it! Stop
right.
calling them your babies. They're not. They're
Yeah,
fucking dogs, and
they're
they deserve to
dogs.
be treated like dogs. And if you treat them like dogs, you'll have a great time.
Yep. My almost 14-year-old cat, he doesn't hate my daughter. He really likes her. He likes to hang out in a room, and he comes and hangs out with her, but he doesn't like loud noises. And if she pisses him off, he will attack her. I mean, he has chased my daughter, my cat has chased my daughter because she pissed him off. And I fucking I can't blame him, but also I can't have him attacking my kid. At the same
Right.
time. It's under control. She's learned now that he has his limits. But that's the thing, you don't know where those limits are with your animals. You can't talk to them. Whereas like you and I can talk to each other, and I could be like, hey, don't do that thing. It pisses me off or whatever.
Look, if you steal my ammo, I will bite your face off. And now you know. So don't do that.
I will rip off your genitals.
But right? You want to get your dick ripped off? Try to steal my fucking Elmo. All right? That's where we're at. No, I mean,
you know?
when it comes to like dogs and cats and stuff, though, like we know enough about them
Yes.
where as long as you are treating them like the animal they are, which is not degrading in any way, by the way. I feel like people want to anthropomorphize everything
Yeah.
because fucking humans apparently are so great that everything just needs to be a reflection of us. Well, I say fuck that because one, we're super not, and two, like if you treat your animals like what they are, because we're animals too, But like if you treat a cat like a cat and not like a toy or some bullshit or like it's your baby or something, then you're going to get along with it great. Same with your dog. You'll have a great fucking relationship for the entirety of their life or yours, whatever ends first. And like people who don't do that are the ones that you read about in the fucking news.
Right.
Like
Yep.
people just stop it. Just knock it off, everybody. Just cut it out. That's all I'm
Yep.
saying.
Stop pushing. And keep in mind, we've spent thousands of years domesticating cats and dogs.
Yeah.
thousands. Like this didn't happen in the last even 500 years. This is a
No,
fucking work in progress. We haven't done that with chimps or big cats or kangaroos or whatever.
no.
Um, we're not, and maybe that's what we're stepping towards. Maybe we're trying, but it's going to take another couple thousand years to happen. And I'm not willing to put myself, my family, my loved ones at risk for your fucking experiment to domesticate these animals.
No, we
And none
don't
of us
need
should
them
be.
domesticated.
No, we don't.
The other
Like,
thing, you know?
that's exactly. We domesticated cats and dogs because they served a purpose for us,
Yes.
and we had a symbiotic relationship, and now we still have a purpose for each other,
Yeah,
in
cats,
different
dogs,
ways.
horses,
Hmm.
most animals used for agriculture, like cows are not what they like. If you just let all your cows go into the wild, that's a mistake,
Yeah,
like they're fucking domesticated animals now.
yeah,
There's a lot of animals like that, but no,
yeah.
you're right. Fucking chimps are not one of them, nor should they be.
No, we don't need them. But here's the real question, and I know everybody's thinking it. I'm thinking it anyway.
Hmm.
Because there were a lot of rumors about Sandra and kind of what her relationship with Travis. You think she was fucking that chimp?
Ah, god damn it. um,
I gotta say, I mean, come
I
on now.
don't
She was
know.
sleeping in bed with, you know what I mean? Like she was fucking mental. Like, and
Yeah.
I don't mean that in a rude way. It just is what it is. You know, she was off her fucking rocker.
I'm going to say no. And my reasoning is because I think that Travis became a surrogate child for her
Okay.
after the death of her own child. And the death of her husband didn't change that relationship. It just made her hyper focus on it. And so I think that she just continued to treat like Travis as a human child, and not as like a sexual partner.
I'm gonna also say no. You have a good point. My reason is because I don't want to imagine that she fucked that chimp.
Well, yeah, that's fucking, come on. We're better than this.
I would like to think
I mean, we're probably not, but still.
I'm not. You speak for
I
yourself, but
know.
um, I would like to think that she did not. But she was something's wrong with her. And again, I'm not saying that in a disrespectful way. It's just that
Sure.
she was a very troubled woman, and
Clearly.
as much as I don't want to thought that she would have, I wouldn't be surprised if she had. But we won't know now. She's dead. Um,
Yeah. I mean, all we can do is speculate, and that doesn't
speculate.
serve like any real good purpose. There's no evidence for it. We'll just say that.
There is no evidence for it, right? Just like there's no evidence that he was on Maury. Same
Right.
concept. We don't
You know.
know. Anyway, any final thoughts about chimp keeping or chimp attacks or Travis or any of these
Well,
people involved?
don't do it,
No,
Like if
don't
you're
do it.
thinking about getting a chimp, fucking don't, fuck you. Just don't do it.
Yeah, if you need
Um,
to spend $50,000, if it's burning a fucking hole in your pockets, I will put my PayPal and Cash App and Venmo in the description,
yes.
and you can send it to me.
For $50,000, I will dress up as a chimp and come visit you
Yeah,
once a year. And I'll jump around on your cars. And I don't know, dude, I'll drink some wine, whatever you want.
he'll even
No,
rip
but
your dick off if that's what
I
you're looking
will,
for.
if
That's
that's what you're into. You got to sign a release, but yeah, I'll do it. Um, but yeah, no, okay. So, like, yeah, obviously don't keep wild animals as fucking pets. The only thing we should be concerned about when it comes to wild animals, if you care about them, preserve their natural habitats. The solution is not to bring them into your home and anthropomorphize them and eventually have them rip your fucking dick off. The solution, if you actually give a shit and you're not just a selfish fuck, is to preserve their natural habitat so they can live the life that they fucking deserve to in nature where they belong. Now,
Mhm.
I also want to say that, like, Sandra, I don't think is completely without sympathy here. I think she went through a lot,
I
and
agree.
I think that as much as anything, this story could be used as an example of how our society treats mental illness and how easy it is for even people with fucking privilege
Yep.
to be completely abandoned to do whatever batshit thing that they're going to do because there's no barrier. There's nothing to get in their way. There's no safety net for them to fall into when they really start to lose it. And I think she did lose it. Um, and so, like, that's immensely sad. It doesn't change anything, doesn't change her responsibility. But I do think that that's something that people should take away from this. And, obviously also, like, Charla is fucking amazing. And I can't
Yeah.
believe how well she has sort of bounced back from her circumstances.
Yeah. Yeah, I do feel bad for Sandra. I do. She's not right in how she handled things, but
Right.
fucking we all make mistakes. Some of us make bigger ones than others, and
Yeah.
I do feel badly that because I mean, then at the end of her, I mean, she lost everything. Now her best friend,
Right.
the only thing she had, Travis, and had nothing and died alone.
Somebody
And
needed to step in and help her
yeah,
way before any of this happened.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely, and it's just a testament. Money really doesn't always buy happiness. Ask her whole house. It'll tell you.
Right.
And she just was a very disturbed individual, mentally, and she was just trying to cope with it the only way she knew how, and that was with animals. And it's sad. Like I said, she did go on to try to adopt another chimp. I mean, clearly she was not well. Um, it is very sad. But yes, on the flip side of that, you do have Charla, who is, she's not a hero. She is an inspiration, though.
Yeah.
For fucking anything you go through. I mean, fuck, if Charla Nash can get attacked by a chimpanzee and fucking overcome, you can do anything. Literally anything. I mean, take that and use it as your motto, right? Put a picture of Charla up somewhere of her new face. And see what she's overcome. If you need that reminder, there's some amazing human beings on this planet, and she's one of them. Um,
Agreed.
so, anyway. Well, maybe, like I said, maybe next time we'll talk about Coco. We'll, we'll figure it out. We'll talk about something else that's not so um, sad. But, with that being said, guys, we will see you back here next Wednesday.